The following is a presentation of Sertoba Media and Comey Media Incorporated.
Karty B makes a field goal winning kick? Oh, no, not the rapper. No. I'll explain on the other side. This is Total Football Talk. Well, welcome to Total Football Talk, hard-hitting, grind action, news, and fun, just the way you like it. I'm one of the co-hosts of this program, Cole Johnson, a.k.a. the Mad Scientist and the EP of all EPs. And I'm joined by the other co-host, as always, for this program. Let me see, Mr. Commander's Grading Report, Mr. NR Sports Debate, Mr. Even D. Willie in the Evening. Otherwise, he is D. Willie, a.k.a. Drew Willingham. How you doing, my brother?
Doing great out here in these streams this morning, my brother. Glad to be here with you for another Monday morning edition, episode 56. Let's get this thing started.
Well, you heard the man. Let us get this started. Opening drive, we shall go.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready? Great.
All right, let us promptly start with last Monday night's game. The Philadelphia Eagles, they had their proper, and I do mean proper, home opener against the Falcons. And everything seemed to look good. It was nip and tuck, but the Falcons had it all under control until a 3rd and 3 drop pass by Saquon Barkley messed everything up for the Eagles. They kicked the field goal to put themselves up 21-15. And then the defense couldn't hold them. Final score, Falcons 22, Eagles 21. Kirk Cousins, pretty good game, actually. 20-29, 241 yards and a couple touchdowns. He did have 4 carries for -1 yard, but we'll excuse that. Bijan Robinson didn't have as many carries, only 14, but he had 97 yards, and you could chip in 4 receptions for 25 yards. And Bijan, he had 97, and Kirk Cousins had -1 of their 152 yards on the ground. Darnell Mooney, and through the air, 3 receptions, 88 yards, and a touchdown. Jesse Bates III, he had the game-sealing INT, with Younghoe Koo getting 3 of 3 field goals. Oh, yeah, and that Jesse Bates game-sealing INT came on the arm of one Jalen Hurts. 23 of 30, 183 yards, a touchdown, and a pick, along with 13 carries and 85 yards, along with a touchdown. Now, you had also Saquon Barkley with 22 carries and 95 yards, 4 receptions, 21 yards, and a pretty good rushing attack for the Eagles, but it just was not enough. Your thoughts on the Falcons breaking through and stealing a victory in South Philly?
And this was back and forth until the end. I mean, you really saw the Falcons' competitive spirit in this game awaken, which really carried them on until this past week into week 3. So definitely, you know, the question started to arise after the game if Nick Sirianni, if he should be the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles or not. I mean, we've also had these questions in past seasons as well. But looking at this the way that it was, I mean, we see now why Atlanta invested in Kirk Cousins, because he definitely stepped up in this game. I mean, 20 of 29 is pretty respectable for the statistical numbers for the game, along with what Bijan Robinson did on the ground, as well as helping out in the air. Their offense has been really clicking, especially the past 2 weeks, in weeks 2 and week 3. And we saw the beginning of that in this game. You know, the Eagles, there were some question marks that were definitely brought up here, but the biggest one that we see, if Saquon Barkley is healthy, was definitely answered. It was answered in weeks 1, 2, and then of course in week 3. So it's going to be interesting to see how long that keeps up for. But for a really close contest that came down to the wire, I mean, this went down to the very end. We see that what could potentially be pretty interesting seasons by both of these teams for the 2024 season.
Yeah, definitely. I think what I loved about that game in particular, it looked like the Falcons actually decided to show fight. The Eagles, I thought they would have the game in tow, but unfortunately, I think they needed to rely more on the run later in the game because, in my opinion, the way I would have done when they were up 18-15 would have been, all right, 3rd and 3, you were at the Falcons like 8 or 9. Heck, I just run the ball, and more than likely I'll probably get 2 yards. And then 4th and 1, yeah, the Eagles, they do this play that every other team wants banned, but they seem to always run it with success. Oh yeah, the tush push. And if you do those 2 plays in succession, the game's over. But I'm not a head coach. And it is good to see the tribe rep. We will eventually get to you all in a minute. It definitely get to your comment about the game that the Eagles played yesterday, Dante. We see you, my brother. But we're now on to the next. Oh, and in that game, both teams ended up being 1-1. We're going to Thursday night. Oh, good Lord, where the Jets basically sleptwalked and did a 7-on-7 scrimmage and basically just had their way with the Patriots. 24-3, the game wasn't even that close. The fact that the only controversy was Aaron Rodgers denied a Robert Saleh hug off the sideline, that should tell you how much of a game this was. Aaron Rodgers, he did a good job. 27-35, 281 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 carries for 18 yards. So easily best game that he's had thus far in his career as a Jet. Breece Hall on the ground, 16 carries, 54 yards and a touchdown. 4 receptions for 29 yards in the air. Tyler Conklin, he led all receivers for the Jets, and actually all receivers, period. 93 yards in the air with 5 receptions. The Jets, they spread the love. 8 different receivers had at least 1 reception. Will McDonald IV, he's continuing his beastly ways. 2 sacks with 4 quarterback hits. And Will's 2 sacks paced the Jets, putting Jacoby Brissett down to the turf 7 different times. And speaking of Jacoby Brissett, 12 of 18, 98 yards. Obviously, he was so ineffective that Drake May finally got to be on an NFL field officially. He was 4 of 8 for 22 yards. Oh, and the passing offense for the Patriots officially, 61 yards. Your thoughts on the 24-3 victory for the Jets in their home opener?
You said that they walked their way to a victory.
Basically.
I wonder if you asked the player personnel of the Jets if they walked, they would probably say that they walked their way to victory, because look at how this game went from start to finish. I mean, Jacoby Brissett, that offense, I mean, you said what, just a little over 60 yards passing on offense. That's absolutely worthy enough to have a slide that we like to play clicked on once I come across that button to click, because I'm telling you right here it is, right here and now. They were the ultimate dumpster Pelican team for Thursday Night Football. I mean, we got to go back to this clip one more time. Dumpster Pelican worthy. This team, the offense, 66 yards passing. It's probably the 3rd longest beat to the back of Thursday Night Football participants of this season, and it will probably climb up that list again if they get that opportunity to do so once more. This was absolutely It was so bad I clicked the wrong button again. Now, looking at this, it was an absolute. So bad I let it loop two more times. It was so bad.
Bad dumpster fire.
Yes, real bad. Now, of course, we already knew coming into this year that it was going to be more of a transitional year because of Drake May being a rookie quarterback. And if they were close in any games, they're going to be leaning on the backs of their defense, right? Because, Gerard Mayo, defensive minded. I mean, the hoodie was defensive minded, but we saw, where that got them after, a couple of decades and how they fell off last year. But right here and now, do I fault the Patriots offense for what they did? Not necessarily, because you got to look at the defense they're playing against. The Jets defense lived up to their name in this game. But, looking at some things too, Aaron Rodgers definitely stepped it up to Aaron Rodgers level. I mean, he turned back the clock about 10 years, put up 281 yards passing, threw 2 touchdowns, did not turn the ball over. Also had some help in the rushing department. There weren't individual players that put up huge numbers, but they put up huge contributions is probably the best way I could put it. Because you had Braylon Allen carry the ball 11 times for 55 yards.
He had some key first downs,
Yeah, key first downs, moving the chains. Breece Hall carrying the ball 16 times, even though he only had 54 yards. He did put the ball in the end zone for a touchdown, though. We got to look at that. Also had some contributions in the receiving game as well between both of them as well. But if you take Aaron Rodgers out of it and you add Isaiah Davis into it, you got to look at the fact that their running attack carried the ball 30 times in this game. Combined between 3 running backs. Okay. So that when you're controlling the, your production that way, and you have 30 rushing attempts on the ground, you and I have said it throughout the previous 55 episodes that if you really want to control the game, you have to establish the run. And that's what the Jets did. And they have been doing a pretty good job of since Aaron Rodgers took the helm this year. And doing that on a defense that's supposed to be what's carrying them through the games, that being for the Patriots, it's a pretty big thing to have in this game. So between that, set up play action, plus we saw that Achilles injury healing for Aaron Rodgers is going pretty well, because look at how he was bouncing outside the pocket and extending plays with his legs. All that in itself is a pretty good game for the Jets.
I agree. We actually, I think, Thursday got a chance to see the blueprint as to how the Jets want to play a game. How they did it, that's exactly how they want to do it. Get after the quarterback on defense, eliminate opportunities for running. So all they could do is throw. And then on the offensive end for the Jets, run the ball with some balance and some well-timed throws, and to not make mistakes with the ball when they have it. So, the Jets, wonderful performance, easily the best of the year for them. They improved to 2-1. They knocked their division rival down to 1-2. And now the Jets actually have a 2-game winning streak against the Patriots. Oh, and Dante says, look, wasn't that weird? That Hug Brush-Off gave up a-hole vibes. That was a boring game. Look, you do not have to say to me anything about Aaron Rodgers and his a-hole vibes. I do not really like the guy. And it's not necessarily because I don't think he's talented. I just don't like the quality of human being he is. But that's a whole different story, whole different ball game, and I will not take you all down that soapbox. All right, to the Sunday slate, shall we? All right, we will start with the New York Giants. They traveled to Northeastern Ohio. They played the Cleveland Browns. Daniel Jones, he paved the way in that 21-15 victory over the Browns, 24-34, 236 yards, and a couple of touchdowns. You also had 8 carries for 20 yards. Devin Singletary, former many teams, 16 carries, 55 yards, and a touchdown on the ground, 4 receptions, 43 yards in the air. He did do and lost a fumble. Malik Neighbors, he actually showed you why he is the stud that he is. 8 receptions, 78 yards, 2 touchdowns. Both those touchdowns came within the last 3 minutes of the second quarter. He also had 2 carries for 4 yards on the ground. And he also tried to play quarterback. He was 0 of 1. But good try, though. On defense, Dexter Lawrence second. We have a Dexter Lawrence sighting. 2 sacks, a tackle for loss, and 4 quarterback hits. He paved the way for 8, and that is not a misnomer, 8 sacks of Deshaun Watson. 21-37, 196 yards, 2 touchdowns with 4 carries to 26 yards. And not only did he have 1, but he had 2. He lost 2 fumbles. Apparently, there was not a massage therapist anywhere near Northeastern Ohio to watch him massage something of his own. Amari Cooper. he led the way, receiving 7 receptions, 86 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Both kickers missed their field goal attempts. Their only field goal attempts they tried. Your thoughts on the 21-15 victory from the Giants over the Browns?
First of all, I am definitely going to adopt that nickname for Devin Singletary, Devil Singletary, because that is what he is sometimes, especially when you look at what he's done in the past. Yes, I am loving it, Cole. We are sticking to Devil Singletary. That's probably going to be clipped into something. Now, back to the show. When it comes to this game right here, you saw why the Giants picked Malik Neighbors in this past draft. I mean, he was definitely making plays, and had it not been for Malik Neighbors, the Giants probably would not be enjoying this victory Monday for themselves because of the plays that he was able to make to extend drives, first downs, get it into the end zone, so on and so forth. Of course, we make all the jokes all we want to about Deshaun Watson in the misogynistic ways that he has been. Take the misogynistic for all in what you want. But hear it now, when you look at everything for this game, Daniel Jones played solid again for the second straight week. Now, the previous week in the team that they played against, of course, field goal kicker for the other side for the Commanders helped make the game for what it was, because if it wasn't for that and the amount of field goals that he kicked, the Giants would have won that game too. So this game right here was definitely big for this team because they've been looking for some type of spark this year because they have been struggling in the first 2 weeks to get the dub as they started out 0-2. But looking at how things went for this team right here and now, playing against the Cleveland Browns that came into this game 1-1, it's nice to see the Giants actually finally step it up and get a win. Devin Singletary, 16 carries on the day, definitely helped establish the run and mix things up. Did he put up a lot of numbers with those 16 carries? No, but he was able to move the chains and help, get them into play action modes and certain other plays in between all those carries. So definitely big for that. But Malik Neighbors putting up 2 touchdowns on the day, who received both of those touchdowns thrown by Daniel Jones, was absolutely huge. I'd say the big MVP of this game was Mr. Neighbors.
No question. No question whatsoever. Well, both teams are now 1-2, and it looks like both of them are going absolutely nowhere. Well, then again, the Giants are in the NFC East. They do have a shot. A small one, maybe, but they still have a shot. All right. Speaking of, never mind. I might as well just say it right out. In Nashville, and this does my heart beautiful, the Tennessee Titans, they hosted the Green Bay Packers, and it looks like Malik Willis got some well-deserved revenge on his former team as the Packers mollywopped the Titans 30-14. Oh, the aforementioned Willis, 13-19, 202 yards and a touchdown. He also had 6 carries for 73 yards and another touchdown. The Packers offense, there were many of them that had rushes. They accumulated 188 yards on the ground. Not the effort that they did last week, but 188 yards is pretty stout on the ground. Emmanuel Wilson, he had 50 of those yards on 12 carries. He also had 2 receptions, 35 yards, and a receiving touchdown. On the D, Preston Smith, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for losses, and 2 quarterback hits. And he, Mr. Smith, had 2 of the Packers' 8 sacks. That's right. Just like the Giants defense, the Packers defense put Will Levis to the turf 8 times. Also, you had Xavier McKinney. He had a pick. And Jair and Alexander had a beautiful INT where he stepped in front of a hanging sideline pass, an out route, and went 35 yards for a pick 6. Oh, and not to be outdone, Braden Narvison, he had 3 field goals. So it looks like the Packers have found their new kicker. On the other side of the coin, Kenneth Murray Jr., he had 5 solo tackles, 2 sacks, 2 a tackle for loss, and 2 quarterback hits. But Will Levis, 26 of 34, 260 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 INTs, 3 carries, 12 yards. Oh, yes, right. He also had he is the gift that keeps on giving to opposing defenses. Your thoughts on the 30-14 victory, and the game wasn't even that close. The Packers' victory over the Titans.
We're throwing shade on Will Levis today, but I think we should add one more thing. Not only the fact that, the one you replaced is the heir apparent at quarterback. Malik Willis also had 3 more total yards of production that you had. When you combined rushing and passing numbers between the two, he had 3 more all-purpose yards than you, and you still turned the ball over more than he did because Malik Willis didn't turn the ball over. I would say that's probably been the most impressive part of the statistical stat line for this game is that Malik Willis came into this game, goes back to Tennessee, puts up a pretty decent game on offense with passing and rushing numbers. Now, I still feel some type of way when you lean more on your quarterback for rushing numbers than you do on your actual running game out of your running backs. Because looking at this right here, yes, it's cool to be impressed with the numbers that he put up, but the fact that you have your quarterback putting up 73 yards in rushing and your next leading rusher had 12 carries for 50 yards, but you're averaging 12 yards per attempt. I get that sometimes some of those plays, the O-line's breaking down, you have to extend plays by running yourself, but I'm still concerned about that. And we need, if you're a Packers fan, I'm not, but if you are supportive of the Packers, you need Malik Willis to stand upright for the next 4 weeks because it's going to be that long until you get Jordan Love back. So hopefully that they don't run him into the ground, but for him to go back to Tennessee for a redemption game for himself, even if he never becomes a starting quarterback, this was huge for him to be able to do that, to go into Tennessee, stick it to him, for them sticking it to him, bringing him in, then bringing Will Levis in while he's still there and dealing with all that drama to be able to have your revenge in this game. I'd say for your life going forward. That was huge for that young man. Absolutely great. When it comes to the Packers, the fact that they are still winning, they still have a winning record with Jordan Love being down, absolutely huge for them to get this win to stay alive. We'll have to see how things pan out going forward, but their kicker, Braden Narvison, talking about it during the offseason, how that could be a sleeper pick for a kicker here. He's showing the reasons why some of us were saying that during the offseason, because 3 of 3 for field goals is nothing to be slouching at. And that was absolutely huge. And I think if he keeps that momentum strong going forward, these statistical numbers that we talk about from that man right now are going to pay off at the end of some of these games.
I agree. I 100% agree. Dante, he says, look, possible quarterback controversy if he plays well for Green Bay. No. There won't be, because LaFleur actually really does love Jordan Love, and that's the franchise guy going forward. There's no controversy. And plus, there were some signs in the game where you saw that Willis didn't really connect well with his receivers. No, there won't be. Jordan Love is the guy. There's no question about that. But the Packers, they improved to 2-1, and they moved the Titans down to 0-3. 2 losses at home. You gotta love it. All right, let's go to Indianapolis, Indiana. where the Colts played against the Bears. We got a chance to see T.Y. Hilton toss Seth Rollins onto the field. And for those who don't know, Seth Rollins is a huge Bears fan. And the Colts did a little bit of tossing themselves as they beat the Bears 21-16. Anthony Richardson, not really all that impressive. 10 of 20, 167 yards with 2 INTs, along with 8 carries, 24 yards. It almost looks like he has a carry pitch count, because I have not seen him really have a whole lot of rushing stats in terms of carries. But of course, the star of the game to me, Jonathan Taylor, 23 carries, 110 yards, 2 touchdowns. That is where the bread is buttered for the Colts. He also had a reception, 25 yards, and at 110 yards, along with the 24 from Richardson. Those 134 yards were part of a 150-yard rushing attack from the Colts offense. The Colts defense, they ended up having 4 sacks. They had 4 different guys chipped in with a sack each. Jalen Jones had 2, not 1, but 2 INTs of Caleb Williams. 33 of 52, 363 yards, 2 touchdowns. Already mentioned the 2 picks. He had a carry for 8 yards. So he also had a, that's right, he coughed it up once. But you had a good sighting. Roma Dunze, 6 receptions, 112 yards. His first ever touchdown receiving, along with Caleb Williams' first of the 2 touchdowns of throwing in the NFL career. He also had a carry for 2 yards. Cole Kmet, he had the most receptions in the game, 10, 97 yards with a touchdown. And then DJ Moore, 8 receptions, 78 yards, a carry for -6. Oh, and Jalen Johnson, he had an INT. Your thoughts on actually seemingly a pretty good competitive game between the Colts and the Bears?
It was a pretty good competitive game. I think that the Bears should have won this game, though. I mean, it was Caleb Williams that threw this game away with the multiple interceptions, them turning the ball over. Because look at how Anthony Richardson played, definitely underwhelmingly. I mean, he didn't do anything that really impressed me here. You know, out of 20 attempts, only completed half of them with 10 completions and threw 2 interceptions. You got to look at what they did on offense with the Bears. Roma Dunze finally woke up here and finally got some action in this game and was the leading receiver in this game as well. Absolutely huge to have 6 receptions for only 112 for, I wouldn't say only, but for 112 yards and a touchdown as a rookie. That's huge. Cole Kmet also, you know, contributing huge with what he did with his touchdown. But the big thing, besides Richardson throwing 2 interceptions for the Colts, was the rookie Caleb Williams throwing 2 interceptions as well. Because you did all that, and you still only lost by 5 points. Your running attack, though, is where we want to raise the eyebrows at, because
non-existent.
Yes, and they had a lot of attempts. They had over 20 carries on the day as a running back core, and they still put up less than, you know, just barely over 50 yards combined between 6 or 7 running backs, between quarterbacks and running backs in their rushing game. Looking at all that right there, they got to figure that out. But the big questions with that were their offensive line. We've been talking about that during the offseason into last year, which is why they had the issues with Fields, what they had. And they're going to have the same issues no matter who was at quarterback. The difference is Caleb Williams is a little bit more elusive in the pocket, can roll out of the pocket, can extend the plays, and a little bit smarter IQ in the backfield as a quarterback, which is why he's been able to make some plays and extend the drives in certain aspects and keep the games relatively close. They're going to have to address that offensive line in 2024's offseason going into 2025. They just have to. There's no way around it, because you've got too many weapons for that receiving core, and maybe bringing a more experienced back to help them out with their rushing attack next year. But 2 or 3 O linemen and a running back, and I think this team's going to be in a serious attack for making a run in the playoffs. And you can mark my words all you want to, and people can try to condemn me for it. Caleb Williams is a lot better than Justin Fields, or at least in that system. But just like it took one change in Carolina that we saw a big spark in yesterday in Sunday's games, We're seeing that here with the quarterback play, but the difference is you're going to need a few more weapons in order to make this a more relevant team. The good news is losing by 5 is a lot better than losing by 30.
Yeah. Yeah. So to me, it tells me that Caleb himself is not far off, but I agree with your take. The team is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the problem. Dante says, the battle of overhyped quarterbacks. Well, they're there for a reason. That's all I can say about that. The Colts improved to 1-2, and the Bears dropped to 1-2. All right, now let's get this over with. The Houston Texans. Yes, you all were all of this and then some. Dumpster, Pelican. Oh my gosh. All of you. And the biggest one is Laramie Tunsil. All of you. Just dumpster, Pelican. Let me stop. 34-7. The Texans went to the Twin Cities to play the Vikings. The game wasn't even that close. And the Vikings, I have no problem saying it, they dominated the Texans on all fronts. Sam Darnold, he could not have played a much better game. He could have been a little more efficient, but doesn't matter to me. 17 of 28, 181 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He did what he was supposed to do, and he did not turn the ball over. Aaron Jones, he actually got 100 yards on the ground, 19 carries, 102 yards. He also had 5 receptions, 46 yards, and a touchdown. Justin Jefferson, 6 receptions, 81 yards, and a touchdown. And here is where the problem started. Jonathan Grenard, former Texan, 3 sacks, 3 tackles for losses, and 3 quarterback hits. And then 3 sacks from Grenard that paced the Vikings getting 5. Oh, Camo Grugier-Hill, another former Texan with a pick. Cameron Bynum, another pick. Real Richard with 2 field goals out of 2 attempts, the long being 58 yards. And C.J. Stroud on the other side, which this was an uncharacteristically inexperienced looking game for him. Normally he has the poise that extends beyond a second-year quarterback. Not yesterday. 20 of 31, 215 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 picks, 2 carries for 12 yards. The pressure from the Vikings, that did affect Stroud. The Texans offense had 258 passing yards because there was a Davis Mills sighting too. Oh, and Stephon Diggs. He was the star of the Texans, going back to Minneapolis. 10 receptions, 94 yards. He even completed a pass for 13 yards. Tim Settle Jr. on defense, he gave you 2 sacks, 2 tackles for losses, and 2 quarterback hits. And that paced 2 of the Texans' 4 sacks. Now, unfortunately, the Texans just simply could not get the Vikings off the field. The Vikings kept moving the chains, and they kept being opportunistic and taking advantage of those mistakes. Your thoughts of the 34-7 Vikings victory over the Texans?
Hey, at least it was good for you Texans fans out there to know that Stephon Diggs was not the problem in this game. Look at his production. Yes, look at his production here against his former team. He did pretty good. You got to give him credit where credit is due. I think something that really hurts you guys with mixing things up was definitely your rushing attack because you just could not establish the run in this game. Through 14 attempts, you had 40 yards combined between all 4 running backs. Yes. CJ Stroud turning the ball over definitely was huge too, but you got to factor, even if those 2 interceptions he threw and you scored, you still would have lost 34-21. Overall, in this game, the lack of production in your running game definitely hurt. Also, another thing that kind of screwed you up a little bit too was the punter for the Vikings had a couple punts inside the 20 yards, which definitely is not a good setup no matter who you are. Yeah. And definitely put the pressure on the Texans offense as a whole. You can definitely point the finger at CJ Stroud all you want to, for those of you out there, whether you watched the game or you didn't. I don't think it fully falls in the hands of CJ Stroud, because you got to look at the other positions that didn't really step up. and their defense giving up 34 points. When you look at the fact that Sam Darnold still threw for under 200 yards on the day and gave up 4 touchdowns, there's a lot of question marks that goes into the Texans special teams right now that I have to look at as things from start to finish. Of course, everybody wants to throw the finger at CJ Stroud. This is his sophomore year. He may have a little bit of a sophomore slump. Let's give him a little bit of a break. But also, it's only week 3. There's still a long ways to go. Does this make Sam Darnold elite? Expletive, no. Okay. Does not make him elite. But the team around him, could we see something kind of like the Baltimore Ravens, the 2000 Baltimore Ravens? We potentially could. The rest of this team around him is playing really well, especially the defense for the most part. When you look at the fact that we were just talking about how electric the Texans offense was last year, and of course they had help on defense and special teams. They were pretty well rounded as a whole. They just needed a few more pieces, and of course to get a little bit more experience under their belt. They still need the experience part, and they still need a little bit more help in some ways. But looking at the Vikings right here, I mean, the defense was pretty nasty on this Sunday game, and the offense is doing their job in not turning the ball over. They're not having these huge statistically numbered games, but they're not turning the ball over. And that's the key point right there. If they continue playing this way, I can see them going to the NFC Championship game at least.
They can, if they can keep this momentum going. And to your other points for the Texans, which fine points I made. Yeah, CJ Stroud should own some of it, but he definitely, to me, does not own all of it. When you have, like I mentioned earlier, you have Laramie Tunsil, one false start after another false start after another false start. You can't have those mistakes because you can't have those penalties. And you mentioned special teams. Kaimi Fairbairn, a reliable kicker, missed a field goal. So, yeah, I mean, chances blown and chances and basically breakdowns all over the place. This is a total team ownership in L for the Texans. This was a total team W in terms of the Vikings. And yes, they were, and as for the running game, they were without Joe Mixon because of the drop hip tackle he suffered last Sunday where his knee got tweaked. And so that totally affected the effectiveness of the balance of the Texans. And when they become one-dimensional, they do not operate well at all on offense. So that drops the Texans to 2-1. Thankfully, they still lead the AFC South. The Vikings, they lead the NFC North at 3-0, and it looks like they are going to be problematic. A win against the 49ers and the Texans in back-to-back Sundays. And I agree with you. That defense is going to be problems. Ooh, man. Now to an exciting, but you could say ugly game down in New Orleans. The Saints, they had a lead in the third quarter and they had a lead in the fourth quarter. They could not hold it. And the effective exploding offense that we saw the first 2 weeks, it disappeared. The Eagles, they fought tooth and nail with the Saints. They prevailed over them 15-12. Jalen Hurts, 29 of 38, 211 yards, an interception, and lost fumble. 2 carries to 25 yards. But the story basically would be Saquon Barkley, 17 carries, 147 yards, and a couple of touchdowns. Both those touchdowns were in the fourth quarter, with 4 receptions to boot for 9 yards. And then you have Dallas Goedert, who paced the way, I should say, with 10 receptions and 170 yards in the air. You had on the other side, Derek Carr, 14-25, 142 yards, a touchdown, along with 2 carries and 3 yards. He did throw a pick, and that pick was at the hands of Reed Blankenship, who gave you the game-sealing INT. Alvin Kamara, who did a lot of damage last week in Dallas, was a little bit more contained. 26 carries, 87 yards, Also, you chipped in with 3 receptions for 40 yards. Chris Olave had 6 receptions, 86 yards, and a touchdown. You had Paulson Adebo, who gave you 10 total tackles. You had Tyrann Mathieu, who gave you 7 of them as well, along with a 9T. You had Brian Breesy with 2 sacks, 2 tackles for losses, and 2 quarterback hits. Carl Granderson had another second half with 2 tackles for losses and 2 quarterback hits. And those 3.5 sacks paced the Saints 4 sacks on defense. Your thoughts on this 15-12 ugly victory by the Eagles?
It was definitely a slugfest between the defensive fronts and the offensive lines between both teams. It was definitely very physical up front for both teams. And yes, Dante, I think I'm agreeing with you a little bit on Nick got to go. But when it comes to Jake Elliott, I think he needs to be taking Saquon Barkley out to dinner and thanking him for his contributions. Because had it not been for Saquon Barkley's 2 touchdowns making a dent in this game, Jake Elliott might be looking at a pink slip here soon, because out of his 1 attempt at a field goal, he missed that unit. We were talking so high about Jake Elliott in the past few years and how much of an elite kicker he is. Well, he wasn't an elite kicker in this game. And we also know who else was an elite. That was for the Saints. Derek Carr. Look at what he did. 142 yards in the day, a touchdown and interception. You look at what they did against the Cowboys the week prior, of course. We were praising him as much as we should because of what he did. But in this game against the Philadelphia Eagles, did not do so much. And the fact that the Eagles had to lean on Saquon Barkley again to get the victory, you know, they wouldn't have all this stuff going their way in these games if it wasn't for Saquon Barkley stepping up in these 3 games they played. They would not be 2-1. They would be 0-3 if they didn't have Saquon Barkley to lean on. So Nick Sirianni needs to be, you know, we're just talking about, you know, the one player and giving it up to them for what Saquon Barkley did for the kicker. But the head coach needs to be giving it up to the running back, because that's who's saving his job right now.
100. And Dante, he was hyped from yesterday's performance. He says, look, I told y'all to put some respect to the Eagles' name. Did you really think we would lose to Derek Carr? I could say no. I don't think we lose to Derek Carr. Unfortunately, Drew thought that you would lose to Kirk Cousins and did. Well, what can I say? Oh, but he also said, look, man, Jake, that was a 60-yarder from Jake Elliott, but you passed on a 20-yard field goal. Look, man, Nick got to go.
My man, Dante.
Look, look, we both know another Eagles fan, and he feels the exact same way. Can't stand Nick Sirianni either. But unfortunately, he helped your team improve to 2-1. And they dropped the Saints to 2-1. But that's the type of game I like to see, actually. The big uglies showing out. I love it. And then we get to the Steelers Chargers. Now, I'm wincing not because the game was bad. I'm wincing because the physical nature of the game may have messed up the Chargers for a good amount of time. The Steelers, they doubled up on the Chargers 20-10 on the strength of Justin Fields, 25-32, 245 yards, a touchdown. He did throw a pick. Actually, that's his first of the season. He only had 6 carries for 6 yards, but one of those carries ended up giving him a touchdown on the ground. Najee Harris, 18 carries, 70 yards, limping through with that offense not being great at run blocking. 5 receptions of 16 yards in the air. You had Calvin Austin III with 4 receptions for 95 yards and that touchdown that I mentioned. On defense, Nick Herbig of 2 sacks, 2 tackles for losses, and 2 quarterback hits. He paced the Steelers defense, putting Justin Herbert to the turf Justin Herbert and possibly others to the turf 5 times. And speaking of Justin Herbert, 12 of 18, 125 yards and a touchdown. He did have a carry for no yards. Unfortunately, he had to leave the game in the 3rd quarter. And when he left the game, the Chargers and the Steelers were tied at 10. Oh, but Dupree, former Steeler, he got a pick. Your thoughts on the Steelers beating the Chargers 20-10?
I was surprised a little bit. I mean, of course, that defense is elite. You know, we talked about the Steelers defense for quite some time and how elite they are. You know, and the one thing that I've come to know, okay, in my entire lifetime, ever since I was a kid and came across a cat named Calvin, you cannot trust anybody with the name Calvin, except for Cal Ripken Jr., okay? But you can trust because he went by Cal, not Calvin. Now, when you have a cat named Calvin, you cannot trust that mother expletive because that thing is going to scratch you. And in this game, Calvin scratched the other team. Look at what happened here. 4 receptions, 95 yards, and 1 touchdown. Good job, Calvin. I still don't like you. Now, looking at what he did for the Steelers with Najee Harris, 70 yards in the day, and Justin Fields, 245 yards and a touchdown. They did their jobs, but the big part in this game, you have to attribute the Steelers' defense doing their job and holding what we've been talking about potentially to be an underrated explosive offense for this season, the Chargers, down to 10 points. So the fact that they held them to 10 points was absolutely huge. And even though I don't like you, Calvin, not you as an individual, but just the name and what the usual thing overall represents, I'm giving you a pass in this game because you did your job for the Steelers and they got the dub to be now 3-0.
Oh my gosh. Dante says, look, what the heck? How is everyone but us talking about the Eagles getting 5 or more sacks a game while we struggle to get 1? Well, you're going to be upset because there's other teams that got a lot of sacks too. But it's unfortunate for the Chargers. I think they can stem the tide, provided if this injury that Justin Herbert had doesn't afflict them further. But unfortunately, that loss that drops the Chargers to 2-1. The Steelers are at 3-0, and that was an impressive home opener. And I 100% agree with you. The Steelers defense, they are the ones to me that make me say I do not want to face them out of all the 32 because they are cooking right now.
A playmaker. Talking about the Steelers on that Heineke was perfect on the day for his passer rating, okay?
Oh,
so give the man a break. If he has an entire game and an entire week to prepare, you can see the magic of Taylor Heineke in Los Angeles.
Yes, I know. Taylor Heineke, he replaced he replaced Justin Herbert. Yes, there was a Taylor Heineke sighting that warmed Drew's heart. Yes, we know. And we might see him play next week when they host the Chiefs, but we'll talk about that in the 2-minute drill. Goodness gracious. Oh, my gosh. All right, more Sunday games. There was a Carolina Panthers signing. They must have signed their NFL charter and decided to come up from high school level. Well, they decided to play the Las Vegas Raiders and beat them 36-22. And the Panthers actually made the Raiders look horrible. And I really do mean they made them look horrible. Andy Dalton, the Red Cannon came back at full force. 26 of 37, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did have 2 carries for -2 yards, but it doesn't matter. The 319 yards, 3 touchdowns, that is what does it. Chuba Hubbard. Man, I thought he was in a dungeon. 21 carries, 114 yards, 5 receptions of 55 yards, and a receiving touchdown. Deontay Johnson, he paced away receiving-wise for the Panthers. 8 receptions, 122 yards. He had 1 of those 3 touchdowns that Andy Dalton threw. On defense, you had Michael Jackson, 9 solo tackles. And Eddie Pinheiro, he gave you not 1, not 2, but 3 field goals on 3 attempts. On the other side, Aiden O'Connell, in relief, 9 of 12, 83 yards and a touchdown. Trey Tucker, he had 7 receptions, 96 yards and a touchdown. On defense, Marcus Epps, he had 10 total tackles. But the star of the show, Gardner Minshew, 18-28, 214 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Your thoughts on the Panthers embarrassing the Raiders?
From the moment that you went, hee hee, I knew this show was going to go. We have been talking all season long, which has only been a couple weeks, all off season, and even into last year about the fact that the Panthers needed to
stop it. Get some help.
You thought the shenanigans were here. We're only getting this thing started.
Let me talk to you.
Because this was absolutely insane. You didn't see this coming. I didn't see this coming.
Nope.
We thought that the Raiders were going to win. I was basically starting to address how I thought that Uncle Rico was elite last week. And now people are probably saying this to me.
You should know your role and shut your mouth.
Because as much as it was a total
Surprise, motherfucker.
for me and you, it was a surprise to the people who were trying to crucify me this morning.
Oh, my brother, testify.
Because with all that being said,
you guys want to hear a fucking story?
the story is this. Uncle Rico laid an egg. He played absolutely terrible in this game. And it wasn't just the interception he threw. It was the fact that they had so many 3-and-outs. They could not move the chains. This game was absolutely ugly from the offensive side. And when you look at a team in the Carolina Panthers who has had Andy Dalton for the past 2 seasons and didn't really use him in 2023, yet you bring him out here in 2024 and make him look like an elite quarterback with 300 and some passing yards and 3 touchdowns. I don't know if it was bad for the Raiders in the fact that they gave up the type of numbers that they did to a Panthers team that's been playing the way they did, or if it just goes to show how bad Bryce Young really is. It could be a little bit of both. This could have been the very end of his NFL career or the beginning of the end if you have Andy Dalton, the Red Rocket, putting up numbers like this for the next few weeks. Because when you think about how Trey Lance's, how his stay with the 49ers ended, I think this is worse for Bryce Young because he had more time to develop. Trey Lance got hurt. Okay. And then we saw the resurgence or the emergence or whatever you want to say of Brock Purdy and how he played. Okay. Well, Jimmy Garoppolo, then Brock Purdy, it was a little bit different of how things unraveled there with San Francisco. Right. Here with Carolina, you had your entire top opportunity all last year. Okay. You played terrible. Then you come into this year, they give you the first 2 weeks of the season under new coaching regime, and you played even worse, it seemed like. And then you have somebody who's basically been relegated to backup status over the past few years since probably 2018, 2019, so for at least a half decade, come in and absolutely light it up. Those situations usually only happen when the guy who just got replaced is definitely showcased as he is definitely not the guy. I think this was the end of Bryce Young's career in the NFL.
I really hope that's not the case, but I am not disagreeing with you. I think this might be because you can't have the team look one way with him and in 180-degree different way with another. So yeah, but I still believe the Panthers have 5 300-pound turnstiles in front of them. It's just that when you have a reliable quarterback, he can cover a multitude of problems.
But even that, when you break down the film, it looked like the offensive line was doing a better job at protecting him yesterday. Like they wanted to protect him.
There we go. Yes.
It's not like Andy Dalton is got a lot of youth in him. He's like mid-30s by now. He's been playing since the early 2010s.
Yeah, he's easily mid-30s, yeah.
Yeah, he's not that much younger than Aaron Rodgers. So looking at this situation right here, you saw the offensive line actually want to block for somebody, very similar to what we saw in Pittsburgh when Russell Wilson came out from playing as quarterback and Justin Fields was playing in during the preseason. And we've been getting that same feel while Justin Fields has been the quarterback in Pittsburgh to start this regular season. So it was big for the coaching staff to make the moves that they did to bring in Andy Dalton. They might have just saved their jobs for the future, but they might have just saved the actual locker room for this Panthers team. Because if you're a fan of the Panthers, you got to be proud on this Monday afternoon to be a fan of the Panthers after what you saw this past weekend.
Yeah, I'm sure they're proud of the team to be a Panthers fan. But then they get reminded that David Tepper still owns the team. But that's another subject. But congratulations to the Panthers. They improved to 1-2. They dropped the Raiders to 1-2. And you're probably asking me, Cole, why is this game not the upset of the week? Because there was one performance that was worse than even that. That's why. Now, the Dolphins talking about bad performances. They unfortunately, I guess they're carrying the Tua Tagovailoa less ways with them as they went to the Pacific Northwest and laid a golden egg against the Seahawks to the tune of 24-3. Geno Smith, 26-34, 289 yards, a touchdown. He did not have the greatest of games. He threw for 2 picks, and he rushed for -2 yards on 2 carries. Zach Charbonnet, he gave you 18 carries for 91 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground, 3 receptions for 16 yards in the air. So congrats to you having 107 total yards, Mr. Charbonnet. DK Metcalf, 4 receptions, 104 yards, and that touchdown. On defense, Derek Hall, he had 2 sacks, 1 tackle for loss, and 4 quarterback hits. Again, Dante, get ready. Mr. Hall, he had 2 of the Seahawks' 6 sacks on D. Jason Myers, he was only 1 of 2, but that 1 was from 56. And on the other side, Skylar Thompson, 13 of 19, 107 yards, and a cracked rib. He got pulled for Tim Boyle, who was only 7 of 13 for 79 yards. He also rushed for 6 yards on the carry. And Kida Kohal, he gave you a pick, and so did Zach Sealer. Your thoughts on the Seahawks basically owning this game from opening kickoff?
Well, looking at this, besides everything you just said, you got to look at the fact that they've got a real big catastrophe going on over there at the quarterback position for the Dolphins, because Skylar Thompson now has a rib injury based on what happened in this game. If you were the Dolphins, you need to be on the phone with either Pittsburgh to do what you can to get Russell Wilson over there, because you get him over there for pretty cheap. Although I feel like the chances of that are very unlikely. And the Steelers are going to hang on to Wilson because of how cheap they have him for. It doesn't hurt them to keep him, right? Because if something happens to Fields in the middle of the season or even late in the season, you have an insurance policy right there.
Correct.
That's huge. If I were the Dolphins, I would be on the phone with the Jaguars today trying to bring Mac Jones over there to the Dolphins, because that would be the only thing that could similarly be the best move for them at this point in the season. Because if you're relying on your third-string quarterback, Tim Boyle, 7 of 13, 79 yards, I mean, it's not going to work out for this team. And unless at this point you're trying to tank to get the first overall pick and potentially bring someone in there like Shadur Sanders to mesh in with that in that team, that would probably be the only thing that would make sense for this team at this point, because there's nobody else out there besides Wilson or Mac Jones that you're going to be able to bring in to make an impact on this team. Because if you trade for Bryce Young, they're just going to laugh at you even more. Okay. Especially after what just happened with Carolina, this past weekend with Dalton, and we just talked about that literally in the last take. But right here and now, the Dolphins, the only way their season is going to be saved is if they make a move between Wilson, which I don't see that happen because of what I just said, as well as Mac Jones. Is probably the move that makes the most sense at this point. But again, the Jaguars might want to have some insurance there as well, because whether Skylar Thompson bounces back from this rim injury or not, they're not going to be able to do anything substantial, even if Tua decides to come back after 4 to 6 weeks and says he doesn't want to retire. But we already know the pros and cons of all that. Looking at this right here, I think we're going to be talking about how much a dumpster fire this team is for the majority of this 2024 season.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I agree. And a team that had Super Bowl dreams, I don't think they will, because unfortunately, the quarterback position from the Miami Dolphins is brought to you by the letter. So sorry, Dolphins. They fall to 1-2. The Seahawks, they improved to 3-0. And then you have the dumpster fire that's the Cowboys defense. We'll go into it by the stats, but they hosted the Ravens after trying to lick their wounds and pick themselves up off of that 44-point Mack truck that hit them last Sunday. Disguised as a fleur-de-lis bus or a semi. The Ravens, they overpowered the Cowboys, although the final score doesn't reflect it, 28-25. Lamar Jackson was very efficient, 12 of 15, 182 yards and a touchdown, 14 carries and 87 yards with a rushing touchdown. He did not turn the ball over once. Derrick Henry, 25 carries, 151 yards, 2 touchdowns, a reception with 23 yards for the air. Of course, he was the man for the game. But the 151 yards from Henry and the 87 yards from Jackson, it paced an effort from the Ravens offense that gave you 274 yards on the ground. Yes, you heard me correctly. The Cowboys defense gave up 274 yards on the ground. Oh, Kyle Van Noy on defense gave you 2 sacks, 2 tackles for losses, and 2 quarterback hits. Of Dak Prescott, who was 28-51, 379 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also ran for 7 yards on 2 carries. Jake Ferguson, he gave you 6 receptions for 97 yards. The Cowboys offense, they spread the wealth. 12 different receivers received at least a catch. And then you had Brandon Aubrey, 2 of 2 for field goals. Now you're saying, well, okay, so you made 2 field goals. The shorter one he made was from 51 yards. The longer one was from 65. Oh, and before we continue, Cowboys fan,
This has been yet another beating a dead horse presentation.
you ain't making a Super Bowl with this team. Your thoughts on the Ravens Cowboys, sir?
And also zoom in this camera because you have back-to-back. We are making that into a short. What you said, followed by what I said. I had to. Now, back to this message right here, because the Cowboys, it is like Christmas this week that you just gave us another present, that you just went back to back with L's. Now, Dak Prescott, you threw for nearly 400 yards in this game. It's pretty respectable, but you're going against a team that not only has an elusive running back, being able to put up 151 yards still at a very late age as far as what running backs are considered.
Right.
And put up 2 touchdowns. But you got Lamar Jackson, who's also getting it done on the ground as well, and not turning the ball over at the quarterback position is absolutely huge. But when you look at this as a whole, you know, besides Henry and Jackson, Justice Hill was able to make an impact as well. But their receiving game, was pretty quiet, which is why the reason that you only had 182 yards out of Lamar Jackson. That's going to have to improve because the Cowboys defense is just not elite. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to pass the ball on this defense. Definitely made me yawn as well. And the fact that the Cowboys rushing attack, that's I'm surprised they were still in this game by only 3 points with the type of rushing attack they had, because they were not establishing any type of a run. It was the arm of Dak Prescott that kept them in this game. And you got to look at the fact that the man mixed it up between almost a dozen different receivers. I think 11 different people caught the ball in this game. So being able to mix things up is what kept them in it. And as well as you got to look at what Brandon Aubrey's been able to do. He had a long of 65 yards in this game of a 65-yard field goal, something to bat an eye at. So as much as I'm going to throw shade on the Cowboys, they did a much better job than the way they got embarrassed a week prior against the Saints team. But all jokes aside, they have a long ways to go to gather any type of respect in the NFL, because they did a better job at establishing things this week, but they're going to have to do a little bit more if they want to get back on the right track going forward.
50 says, all right, that's not going to get all talking about the beating a dead horse. This is neither of the kicks, apparently. Well, yeah, well, and to your point, Brandon Aubrey, the 65-yard field goal. Yeah, on the other side, the guy who has the record in 66 yards, Justin Tucker, his lone field goal attempt, no, sir. And the Ravens might have some issues there, but they won't have to think about those problems anytime soon. The Ravens improved to 1-2. They dropped the Cowboys, who now have lost their third straight playoff and regular season home game. They now drop to 1-2.
I got to ask my man Dante something real quick, though. And I see he says about the Stephen A. laugh. Does this work instead?
Now,
we didn't have it on the arsenal, but does it work?
Now, he did also mention he thought that the Ravens Cowboys game, he thought he was watching the Anthony Joshua Daniel Dubois heavyweight championship bout, the IBF championship bout. Neither one was close, and I agree with you. That bout was not close too. Yeah. I was going to say that to the next segment, because that's exactly what I was going to break out. Because the way the Cowboys defensive front is with when it comes to stopping the run. Yeah. Putrid. Jokes aside, Cowboys, you should be ashamed of yourself as horrible as you are stopping the run. Goodness gracious. All right, now we get to the Lions going to the desert and taking over University of Phoenix Stadium, because it did not seem like a home game for the Cardinals. It seemed like a home game for the Lions. They beat out the Cardinals 20-13 as the Cardinals were donned in black. It must have been to their funeral. Jared Goff, 18-23, 199 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did suffer a pick. He also carried the ball 3 times for 6 yards. And he actually had a key first down with one of those carries. David Montgomery, and I'm loving what I'm seeing with their running game. This was his turn. 23 carries, 105 yards and a touchdown, 3 receptions, 17 yards in the air. Jahmyr Gibbs, he was not absent. 16 carries, 83 yards, a reception for 20 yards and a touchdown. But yes, that 105 yards from Montgomery and the 83 yards from Gibbs, and also the 6 yards from Goff as well. It contributed to a 187-yard rushing attack from the Lions offense. On defense, Kirby Joseph, he gave you a pick of Kyler Murray, who was 21 of 34, 207 yards, and a touchdown along with that interception, 5 carries for 45 yards. And Dennis Gardeck was the recipient of the Jared Goff interception. Your thoughts on the Lions beating the Cardinals?
This game was not eventful to watch in the second half because most of the production came in the first half. Defense was able to contain both teams on each side throughout the second half. And collar duty, as we like to call him over here on TFT, definitely reverted back to collar duty status when you look at how he was producing in this game. You know, Marvin Harrison Jr. was able to contribute a little bit, especially in the first half, and get another touchdown. They have back-to-back weeks with touchdowns, now 3 touchdowns throughout the consecutive weeks to kind of make up for the lackluster performance in game 1. So he's still doing pretty well as a weapon over there. But overall, this Cardinals offense was fairly quiet on the day. I would say the Lions did a better job at game management and bouncing back from what they did in week 2. But also, they got to be concerned about the fact that Jared Goff did throw an interception. But David Montgomery was definitely their big vital piece on the day, as well as Jahmyr Gibbs. Between the two running backs, they nearly ran for about 200 yards on the day. And between Montgomery and Gibbs, they combined for 39 rushing attempts. So looking at that right there, the well-balanced attack on the offense for the Lions is the reason why they won this game. They established the run very well, and they had the time of possession on their side as well. So the Lions proved why they have been up and coming over the past few seasons, and the Cardinals proved that why over the past few seasons they've had some flashes in the pan. They still have a long ways to go to become elite in a sense like the Lions are.
Oh, man. It's just I want to believe in the Cardinals, but they have these performances like this one, where it's like you reverted back to form. And what gives me hope for the Lions, I'm loving the fact that they're not having Goff throw the ball 45 times. I'm glad that they're trying to establish a run, and they're doing it with a two-headed monster, because Montgomery and Gibbs, they make for a great combination. And if each of them get over 1,000 yards, look out. The Lions are going to be a tough team to beat. They improved to 2-1. They dropped the Cardinals to 1-2. Now we get to the Sunday night game. The Kansas City Chiefs, they played their first road game of the year. They go down to the ATL in Mercedes-Benz Stadium to face off against the Falcons. Raheem Morris had his team within the Chiefs' 10, not once, but twice, within 5 minutes of the game being over. And they didn't score a point. Sorry. When I see boneheaded decisions from who I'm thinking to be very astute men at head coaching positions, it royally upsets me. Put the pressure on. Never mind. 22-17 was the final score. The Chiefs, they turned back to challenge the Falcons, even with the brain dead issues that Raheem Morris has. And don't give me the refs are in the Chiefs' pocket. Shut up. Patrick Mahomes, 26-39, 217 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. He really didn't have a good game. It was a normal one. But he did have a key rushing attempt. He actually had 3 of them for 30. But he had a big time scramble for a first down that led basically to the margin of victory. The Chiefs offense, many different pieces, and it looks like this is what they're going to do in the stead of Isaiah Pacheco. They gained 141 yards on the ground. So I love what they're doing there. They're not abandoning the run, although 39 throws from, even if it is Mahomes, it's a wee bit much. But Rashee Rice, who eventually is going to be suspended off this team, I don't know when, but he is the engine that is bringing the passing attack to defenses. 12 receptions, 110 yards on a touchdown. He did have a carry for a yard. On defense, Chamari Connor, he had a pick and a wise decision to actually lateral it that set up a field goal. And I think that was at the end of the first half, which actually propelled the Chiefs to get momentum in the second half. Harrison Butker, 3 of 3 field goals. He had a long of 53 yards, but he missed an extra point. I'm sorry. I had to throw Minor shade there. On the other end of things, Kirk Cousins, 20 of 29, 230 yards, a touchdown, a pick, a carry for -1 yards. And obviously on 4th and inches, we ain't going to discuss having him do a quarterback sneak. Oh, sorry. Again, let me stop. I'm supposed to be unbiased here. Justice Simmons on defense, he gave you a pick. And Young Wei Q, he gave you a 53-yard field goal. He should have given you more of them. Your thoughts on the Chiefs' victory over the Falcons, sir?
The Chiefs' victory is basically on the hands of their defense, because what they were able to do to hold the other side in their running attack to the lackluster production that they gave. I mean, Tyler Algier, 7 carries for 32 yards. Bijan Robinson, out of 16 carries, only mustered up 31 yards on the day, averaging 1.9 yards per attempt. And yes, he had a touchdown. But again, you have to look at the Chiefs defense in the fact that the other team ran the ball 23 times and you held them to only 63 total yards out of all those rushes. That's awesome. That's the reason why you guys won this game, in my opinion. And the way that I looked at this game too, yes, you got to look at Young Wei Hugh. You know, you got to look at what he did. Yes, you want more kicks out of him. You want more production out of him, but you shouldn't have to rely on that statistical factor alone. Both quarterbacks for both teams turn the ball over. And, you know, the Chiefs need to be counting their lucky stars for their defense, for one, because at some point, like you said, Rashee Rice is not going to be with this team, and they're not going to be able to lean on him for this type of production. And when you have your next leading receiver, Kelsey, at 4 receptions for 30 yards, that's you can't bank on that when Rashee Rice is gone. And excuse me. Yes, you can rely on this defense, because this defense has been a huge part of your dynasty run that you've had over the last, half decade. But if you lose your top leading receiver and you don't have another good complementary piece to fill in for that, and then he's gone, I think it's going to be a bumpy road for the Chiefs by the time we get to the midway point of the year, because yes, they are 3-0, but they could easily be 1-2 right now.
And people think that I was actually, they thought I was joking when I said that the defense is the stronger unit of the two with the Chiefs. Last night was proof of why I say that. I mean, the Chiefs could have folded. They were deep within their territory twice within 5 minutes of the game being over. And the Chiefs defense was like, nope. Oh, and you're going to go for it on 4th down? Oh, we're going to stop this. And they were up to the task both times. So, but you can't put this defense in that type of position time and time again, because it's going, like you said, and I agree with you, it's going to come back and bite them. They're going to be too tired to make that stop because the offense was too tired to execute the way they're supposed to. But they don't have to concern themselves with it now. We may see a repeat of this year as last, because they did start off fast last year. And when we got to November, we started to see them run out of fumes. Hopefully that doesn't happen to the Chiefs. But right now they are 3-0. And they made the Falcons 1-2 again with the no. Sorry. Let me see if I can find this correctly. Raheem Morris. If you're down 22-17, you have the opportunity to make the lead within 2. That if your defense gets a stop, another field goal wins the game. Would you pull that same boneheaded decision that you did another time as you did last night?
Hell to the no, to the no, no. Hell no, to the no.
Goodness gracious. Take the points. Jeez. And now, arrived to the upset of the week. And it is the Broncos putting it on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, you say, well, you could have put the Panthers and the Raiders. I was like, no. because I did not see. Talk about something I did not see. I did not see the Broncos own the Buccaneers in this game. 26-7. The game wasn't even that close. Bo Nix, congratulations on your first NFL win, sir. 25 of 36, 216 yards, 9 carries for 47 yards and a touchdown. I love the fact that the stat that I want to see, I did see 0 turnovers. Good job, Bo. And that 47 yards, he led a varied rushing attack, which gave the Broncos offense 136 yards on the ground. On defense, Dondrea Tillman, he gave you 2 sacks, 2 tackles for losses, and 3 quarterback hits. And that 2 sacks from Tillman, that was 2 of Dante. 2 of the Broncos' 7 sacks on Baker Mayfield. Oh, and also on defense, Brandon Jones, he had a fumble recovery and an interception. And Will Lutz, really good job, 4 field goals. They relied on him to score. He gave him 4 field goals. On Baker Mayfield, 25 of 33, 163 yards, a touchdown, and an INT. Your thoughts on the Buccaneers really screwing the pooch against the Broncos?
I think the big question that we all have to ask ourselves here is, do we believe in Bo Nix? Because what we just saw in this game here.
I am pained.
What we just saw here in this game was huge for this young man's career. Know, going 0-2 to start the year, you got the starting quarterback spot. He didn't really have much competition around him. To get to week 3 and to have this type of game against a team that had been playing very well in the first 2 weeks, that being the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are led by the now reverted to status of Bunker Stayfield in this game. You got to look at how things went down. Bo leaving this team, because Bo Nix put up some great numbers in this game. 216 yards. He didn't pass for any touchdowns. He didn't throw any interceptions either, but he did have a rushing touchdown. And the only other person to do that for the team was Jaleel McLaughlin, who only had 5 carries for 7 yards. Absolutely dumpster pelican worthy. Bo Nix did have 9 carries for 47 yards on the day, 5.2 yards per carry. I think that's pretty respectable when you add that in with his passing numbers. He had over 250 yards in combined between total offense and production for the day. Bunker Stayfield on this day, 163 yards, 1 touchdown and interception. Absolutely terrible in this game. Reverted back to the status of what I used to joke on him for. If he continues up with that type of production, I'm going to have a field day for the remaining 15 weeks of the season in games that this team gets to play. I'm looking forward to that if that does happen. But at the same time, I don't want to be able to be looking forward to the negative. I like to be dwelling on the positive. And on the positive in this game, Bo Nix lived up to the hype of why he was a higher round pick in the first round and why the Broncos took a chance on him. This looks good on not just him, but also Sean Payton and the rest of the coaching staff. I look forward to seeing what this kid can do for the rest of this year.
I do too, because I think we're scratching the surface, and I think he will learn as he goes. I think he'll improve as he does go too. Oh, Dante. Oh, I love you, brother. Oh, goodness. He goes, Oprah, you get a sack, and you get a sack, and you get a sack. Eagles play, talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Eagles play the same team where they pressure the quarterback, get the ball out. Never seen problems get correct so fast when we play the Bucs this coming Sunday. Well, you might actually have luck and get sacks, but then again, you don't know. The Broncos, they improved to 1-2. They move the Buccaneers off the undefeateds as they are now 2-1. Now we've come to the portion of the program where we are at the game of the week. And of course, it features Playmakers Rams, who he was so excited when he came on. He was like, and it's a sweet, sweet, sweet victory. Finally, a victory Monday. And why is he saying this? Well, they hosted the 49ers, and the 49ers had the lead for most of the game. Both teams came in battered, and the 49ers, they held a 24-14 lead with 12 minutes to go in the game, and then the Rams promptly scored the last 13 points. The final score was 27-24, really competitive game. Matthew Stafford was pedestrian. 16 of 25 for 221 yards and a touchdown. He was opportunistic in this game. He picked his spots, but he wasn't really the gunslinger version that we have been accustomed to seeing with him. Kyren Williams, 24 carries, 89 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also had 2 receptions for 27 yards and a receiving touchdown. Tutu Atwell, he gave you 4 receptions for 93 yards. And on the other side of things, Brock Purdy, 22 of 30, 292 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he also had 10 carries for 41 yards. Yes, I know Brock Purdy actually carried the ball 10 times. I'm aware. Jordan Mason, he had 19 carries for 77 yards. He also had 2 receptions for 12 yards. But Juwan Jennings, he had his career game. 11 receptions, 175 yards, and not 1, not 2, but 3 touchdowns. Too bad that effort went all for naught. Your thoughts on the 49ers losing it in the last seconds to Karty B? I mean, the Rams.
Statistically, you would think that the team that should have won would have been the 49ers because they put up a lot more offensive production.
Mm-hmm.
But this team, the difference that made in this game, the difference that was made was the special teams. Because Jake Moody's miss of a field goal came back to haunt the 49ers.
That was a huge miss too, yes.
Absolutely huge, because we would have probably seen this game go into overtime had he made that kick, because the kick made by the Rams at the end would have been to tie the game up and take it into overtime.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Josh McCarty did his job, 2 of 2 of field goals on the day. But I say that the special teams made an impact on this game is because Ethan Evans, the punter for the Rams, you know, made 2 crucial punts. Well, he had 3 total punts in the game, but 2 of them were very crucial because he punted the 49ers with inside their own 20-yard line, which definitely hicked them up on their drives for those, because even though they put up great numbers on those 2 drives, they were punted with inside the 20-yard line. They didn't do much, and they had to end up punting it away themselves. So I look back at special teams making a bigger impact on this game than like the 49ers doing what they did statistically offensively, because looking at both of these teams, they didn't really turn the ball over. There was just more 3 and outs than you were to expect by both teams, and it was because the defense was holding the offense to those 3 and outs. Big for Playmaker to get this win in week 3, but I still think it's going to be a little bit of a bumpy season, a bumpy road of a season for the Rams going forward. They're not going to be making it to the big game, in my opinion, this year.
Well, I think it looks like it's now going to be a bumpy road for the 49ers. I'm not say they're going to languish in mediocrity, but
yes,
but their road's going to be much tougher than I think they imagined it was going to be. Yes, I know they're without Deebo Samuel and they're without Christian McCaffrey. Yes, I'm fully aware of that. However, like with my Texans, and I said it earlier, you got to play with the cards dealt. They do not cancel games until people get healthy. So they got to play. They played this as well as they could. They had to take the L, though, in SoFi, a place where they normally do well, and it just didn't happen. They dropped to 1-2. The Rams improved to 1-2. And and that concludes not just the game of the week, but it also concludes the opening drive. When we come back, we will have our Snowflake of the week. We'll also touch on a couple of games in the featured attractions. But right after the break, we're going to award somebody with the grand champ. We'll be right back right after this.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On 2. Ready? Break!
We're just getting started. Total Football Talk will return right after this. Whether it's news, the largest egg producer finds bird flu in chickens at a Texas plant, weather, devastating tornadoes rip through the heart of the United States, inspiration, a breast cancer survivor completed the journey of chemotherapy and now begins a future one of matrimony, or sports. Michael Jordan is shown on a photo with Diddy. LeBron James has a video extolling the virtues of a Diddy party. This has been yet another beating a dead horse presentation. We got you covered. BS3 Network, in association with Comey Media Incorporated, proudly present The Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. Live every weekday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central. Hey, Eagles fan. Join my man Cool McCain and a host of others as they break down every single game, every single week in an objective manner, and also from a fan's perspective as well. Remember, this cast feels just like you. Nobody likes you. And you don't care. Fly, Eagles, fly. Eagles Elite Podcast, every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and other podcast outlets.
Everything Boston. I love you, you morons. New Kids on the Block, New Edition.
Dear whatever the law firm is. Sincerely, the U.S. Supreme Court.
Ben Affleck. Nah.
Oh, yeah. Where my dogs at? Welcome back to Total Football Talk with Drew Willingham. I'm Cole Johnson. And now it's time to award that man or that player or that team that did the greatest in this past week. And for his grand champ, I kick it to Drew.
Hoo, 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 hoo. Terrible barking on my day. But what I will say is I will make up with it with my pick right here. You got to go with, in my opinion, you got to go with Derrick Henry. Look what he did in this past week. This man has been lighting it up. I mean, you could go with Saquon Barkley, of course, because what he's done. But hey, look at Derrick Henry, man in his 30s now, 25 carries for 151 yards on the day with 2 touchdowns. And he also put up 23 yards in the air as well for nearly 200 yards combined in all-purpose yards. This man has made a huge impact on this Ravens team. You know, Lamar Jackson's still running the ball a little bit too much, but not as much, and definitely not as many attempts as he once was, because you have somebody with an elite status as Derrick Henry. They just got to be careful with him, because 25 carries is still a lot for someone of his age. They got to ease up on him as the weather starts to cool down, because he is older. And you're not going to be able to rush with him 25 times in a game and get out unscathed 3 months from now when you're playing in 20, 30, 40-degree weather. So enjoy this now. I'm enjoying Derrick Henry being my dog of the week right now, but the Ravens have to do a better job at taking care of their old man right there at the running back position. But yes, that's who I'm going with this week for week 3.
Wonderful choice. And great advice too, because going forward, that's going to be beneficial for them to. I hate to say it, they had to put them on a carry count, but yeah, 25 carries is a lot. But heck, in yesterday's game, 150 yards on that 25 carries shows you that guy still has it and then some. Man, wonderful choice. I was gonna go Saquon Barkley, but I won't. I was thinking about going Jonathan Grenard since he had 3 sacks, but I won't there either. Not because he had those 3 sacks against the Texans. My heart is just being warm for one Andy Dalton. Look, I did not see this performance coming. I didn't see it at all, but I mean, 26 to 37, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns. He took care of the ball very well. He got it to the playmakers that he needed to, both on the ground and in the air. And he gave a team that I think they haven't felt in the last couple of maybe even 3 or 4 years confidence, because this is probably the best game they have played as a team. I would dare say it at least the last 3 years. I mean, they actually looked like an NFL squad. And we say that football's a team sport, and yes, it is. I mean, it takes 22 who start, but 53 as a whole to actually come up with the results that they do. But one man can sway the difference, and one man can make a team feel as though they could do anything, and one man can make a team feel as though they could do nothing. Unfortunately, Bryce Young makes the Panthers feel as though they could do nothing, and Andy Dalton makes them feel as though they can do anything. So shout out to you, Andy. It's good to see you back, Red Cannon. You are my grand champ.
I love it.
Yeah, and your pick for Henry is on chef's kiss. I agree.
Hey, we don't know how much time Andy Dalton's going to be sticking around here at that spot,
Yeah.
so you might as well give it to him while you can.
Exactly. I was about to say, it's probably one of the last times he might receive it, but he definitely deserves it, I think. Man. But beautiful performances, both for Derrick Henry and Andy Dalton. Turning back the clock. I love it.
Total football talk.
Before we get to the featured attractions, Dante says, yeah, for him, it's Dallas Goedert, the tight end for the Eagles. He said the breakout game, and then Daniel Dubois is the real champ. Of course, he does not play football, but Dallas Goedert, he had a big-time game. I mean, 10 receptions, 170 yards. He had the big reception that put the Eagles within position for the game-winning score. So, yeah, can't fault you for that one, man. I mean, he came up huge. Now we are at the time of the program where we do featured attractions. Normally it's 3 games that we find that will be the most appealing for the upcoming week, but we're only going to do 2. And the first one will be Sunday afternoon, 1 p.m. kickoff. The 3-0 Minnesota Vikings, they travel to the not even close to frozen tundra of Lambeau Field to play against the Green Bay Packers, who are now 2-1. Kickoff is at 1 p.m. I'm sorry, all times are Eastern. Playoffs at 1. Kickoff is at 1 p.m. Eastern. Of course, that'll be noon in Green Bay. Televised on CBS. The question that I have for the Vikings. Now they are 3-0. They beat down the beat by the Giants, I should say. They turned back the challenge of the 49ers, and they just simply overmanned and overran the Texans. How can the Vikings continue their impressive start? And I'll even throw the second part of this question. How can Sam Darnold also continue his impressive start?
They're going to have to continue to lean on that defense. The defense has been huge because, and the reason why I say this for Sam Darnold is because the production out of the defense is going to set up the special teams to then receive the ball in a good spot to set up the offense in a good place to get their drive started. So that's what's going to have to happen, especially if he's only going to be putting up 181 yards passing in a game like he did in this past week. But he still did pretty good because they were set up well with what I was just previously talking about, to where they had the ball in good spots to where they are able to get 4 passing touchdowns out of Sam Darnold on just a lackluster 180 passing yards in a game. So Because when you break that down, that's only 45 yards passing per quarter that Sam Darnold's having. So the only way that that can happen and the only type of production they can get out of their quarterback in that way is if their defense is setting up the drives in a great way. So the only way that they'll be able to keep this impressive startup, in my opinion, is that they continue to have great production out of their defense.
I 100% agree with you. And again, I mentioned one person I was considering to be a grand champ, John the Grenard, 3 sacks yesterday, and that isn't a misnomer. I mean, this team, all 3 games, the Giants, 49ers, and the Texans, they predicated themselves on making life miserable for the opposing quarterback in the pocket. So if they could continue that, I agree. I think the Vikings can continue that impressive start because they're going to make offense coordinators and quarterbacks alike have nightmares thinking about facing them that Sunday. On the other side, we see the Packers. They suffered their loss with Jordan Love, and they've been somewhat limping around because the talk was they had this wide receiving core that's young and is vibrant, and they're ready to roll. But obviously, they haven't been able to be utilized because they have gone to a rushing attack with Malik Willis. However, they have 2 straight W's in his starts. Can the Packers sustain this turn back the clock running attack?
Yes, they're going to have to if they want to continue to have this type of production out of this team. Just in what we just talked about with the defense of the Vikings keeping them alive, they're going to have to rely on that as well for the Packers. Maybe not as much as what they would be doing with Minnesota, but the running attack is definitely going to help out the Packers if they can make this happen. Because and the only way I think that they're going to be able to do it is with Jordan Love being out, because again, you're not going to get the same type of production that you were getting out of Jordan Love with Malik Willis, especially with his arm. You're going to have to rely on him on his legs. And as much as I was talking about it earlier in the show about they don't want to overdo it because they still got to get 4 more weeks out of them, I think they got to find that healthy balance, which right now they've found it. They just got to sustain it in order to get through the next month without Jordan Love. So in order to continue to have success that they're having, they're going to have a good established running attack. And as much as I don't want to talk about this with other teams, because this is not the way I usually view football to be, I think the Packers are going to have to lean a little bit more on Malik Willis's legs as a quarterback than what they normally would with Jordan Love.
100%. And yeah, that goes against my thought process too. But seemingly, in order for them to be successful, I think they probably do need to get a 10, and I hate to say even this total, to 15 carries out of him. I really don't want that, but that seems to be the way they have to go until Jordan Love comes back. So in this NFC North matchup, whoever wins this obviously will be sharing first place with possibly the Lions if they were to win next Monday. Who do you have for this one?
I don't think I can go against the Vikings right now. Like, I really can't, based on how they're playing, and mainly with their defense. And, as much as we've tried to not give Sam Darnold as much credit as, everybody else is, I feel like he kind of earns it at this point. 3 weeks in, they're 3-0. Did he throw for over 200 yards this past game? No, but he didn't turn the ball over. And the fact that he's being a good game manager, we have to give him his credit where it's due. And until he proves otherwise, and it could be in his game, I just don't think so. I think the Vikings have a better defense than the Packers. I think the Vikings win this game. I think it's going to be pretty close. Could be within 7 points or less, but I think the Vikings win this game, and it's going to be on the shoulders of their defense as to why they do it. And the fact of Sam Darnold not turning the ball over is definitely going to help them out if he doesn't do that as well.
I'm picking the Packers not because I disagree with you. In fact, all those points I 100% agree with. The Vikings do have a better defense than the Packers. Sam Darnold has become a very sound game manager, and he has done well to not turn the ball over. My issue with the Vikings is I want to see them run the ball better. Now, they did a better job, not a good, but a better job yesterday. I want to see them continue onward and do it better. Hopefully, Aaron Jones will be motivated to want to show up the Packers when he comes back there, and that might prove that point of mine right. However, and yes, I think the Packers defensive front again is viable and susceptible to that type of attack. However, I don't know if the Vikings offense will get enough opportunities to do it. I just think that the Packers will wear them down with that running game and the time of possession. And hopefully the Packers defense could be opportunistic. But I'm only saying this because this game is in Green Bay. If this game was in the Twin Cities, I'd probably pick the Falcons. The Vikings. But I think the Packers, with their running attack, I think they will wear down the Vikings. And that's the only reason why I picked them. Otherwise, I agree with every one of your points you mentioned. Because, the Vikings defense, they're nasty.
It's going to be a close game regardless.
Yeah, it's going to be close. This is not going to be a blowout in either direction. But that Vikings defense, they're nastier than people are saying. Man. All right, the other game also on CBS, also on Sunday, but the kickoff is at 4:25. Los Angeles Chargers at 2-1. They come back home. They rent to host the Kansas City Chiefs. They are undefeated at 3-0. All right, so we have the Chiefs 27-20 with a foot victory over the Ravens. Otherwise, it would have been probably 27-26 with a dub or 28-27 L. 6-25 with a field goal to end the game to beat the Bengals in their game last Sunday, and 2 red zone stops for their third game. Is it possible for the Chiefs to not play closely contested games?
Is it possible? As long as the writers in Hollywood are a part of this whole thing, I don't know. If you were to ask certain people around their conspiracy theories, now is that completely my thoughts on this matter? No, but I thought it was funny to throw it out there because, if you have the way that the Chiefs have been playing in certain aspects over the past 3 weeks, in the Chargers play in the way that they have with Justin Herbert, if Justin Herbert doesn't get hurt in this week 3 contest, I don't think the Chiefs would be able to play the way that they have been in the first 3 games against the Chargers, because they would be paying for it by the end when the clock strikes 0, when the Chargers give them their first loss of the year. Agreed. Now, so much has happened since when people were originally predicting this game a couple weeks ago, because if Justin Herbert is out for an extended period of time and does not play in this game, the Chiefs are going to win this game and be 4-0, regardless of how much I like Taylor Heineke and the fact that he had 100% passer rating in this past game. Okay. But he's not going to do that against the Chiefs as much as I would want him to, because in my closet in the other room, there is a Taylor Heineke shirt from when he was diving for the pylon against the Buccaneers in 2020, in that year that he was making that playoff run. Okay. But here and now, that's not going to happen against the Chiefs. But if you ask this question for the entirety of this season, is it possible for the Chiefs to not play closely contested games? We're going to see that come into fruition as the season unravels, but they're not going to be able to do this consistently and play in these type of games and expect to get wins.
100.
But very, very great question to start this game out right here, because it's been on the minds of a lot of people for quite some time.
Mm-hmm. And I'm with you. I don't think that this can sustain, because there's going to be a time where, the clock will strike midnight and a team that we did not expect to pull out a last-second victory against the Chiefs will. But yeah, but oh yeah, and to your conspiracy theories about the Chiefs being in the rest pockets, I agree with this. With Dante, he says, look, the Chiefs put themselves in last night's position due to penalties. I always shoot down that theory because he was throwing flags right and left against the Chiefs defense. So
Yes.
I'm sorry. No, the refs are not in the Chiefs pockets. But yes, I don't know if they can sustain this, but so far they have. Now for the Chargers. Now, I know that Justin Herbert more than likely, well, he's a question mark right now. And if he goes in, I like the Chargers' chances. But if not, yes, definitely the Chiefs have this game. But just looking at how he has been coming into yesterday's game, I've been seeing a lot of better decision making, a lot of confidence in what the offense is doing, and a lot of positivity from him, talking about Justin Herbert, in the direction of the team. How good has Jim Harbaugh been for Justin Herbert?
Oh, fantastic. Just for lifting his spirits. I mean, if you compare how, I mean, even though they're two totally different quarterbacks, and I believe Justin Herbert plays a lot smarter than this individual that I'm about to talk about, you look at how things were in Miami with Brian Flores and Tua Tagovailoa. So Brian Flores leaves, then you got, McDaniel that comes in, completely changes the culture, lifts up Tua's spirits, and he plays a lot more free, maybe a little bit too free,
Too free.
because like we talked about when it first happened, he was playing a little inept before he dove head first into the thigh of DeMar Hamlin, and we see where things are now.
Yeah.
Now back to the overall base of your question.
Mhm.
The fact that they brought in a different head coach changed the quarterback there and brightened his spirits. Same thing happened here in Los Angeles, because you look at old Brandon Staley, and we were just throwing so much shade on that man last year, especially with the
Mhm.
Raiders gave him and how he was ousted. You bring in Jim Harbaugh and you see a different attitude out of Justin Herbert. Even during, the interviews he's doing behind the scenes. He's got a lot more pep in him. He's got a little bit more pep in his step. He's feeling pretty good. Maybe not today because of how he got banged up
Right.
yesterday, but statistically he was doing pretty good. They were 2-0 coming into this game against the Steelers, and we were talking about it last week about how they would probably have some problems against that Steelers defense.
Yeah.
Didn't think they would be giving him so much of a hard time they would injure the kid, but
Right.
that's exactly what happened in this game. But how good has Jim Harbaugh been for Justin Herbert? Absolutely phenomenal, because you look at the way they started this year, much better. Even now being 2-1 through 3 games is still way better than where they were last year.
I love it, and when I focus on the Chargers, I mean, I look at the totality, obviously, but for me, I have always judged the Chargers the last few years as what is Justin Herbert's body language, because if it is confused or horrible, then I know the team is going to be, and they were for the most part. And last year they were that way almost throughout that year, and I'm talking about before he got injured for the rest of the year. I have been seeing nothing but positive nothing but positive reactions from Justin myself. So I was like, wow, I think he's gotten the finishing thoughts, the finishing lessons that I think a quarterback needs to have once he gets into the league. And it took this long amount of time for him to finally get those finishing school type lessons to be an NFL quarterback. And I think he needed to have a head coach where he knew, all right, this guy knows what he's talking about, and I can actually rely on him whenever I have a problem or I stumble on something, or I can say something to him and test out how well my knowledge is. And I know I'm going to get an answer whether it is one that I like, one that he likes, or one that we both like. More than likely, it's going to be to the point where it's going to be an answer that they both like because they're both going to think similarly. And I think that is what we're seeing. And I love it. I love it for him, and I love it for the team because the Chargers are only going to be playing better because of that. All right, so let's imagine if Herbert actually starts Sunday. Who do you have in this game?
I think I still have the Chiefs, regardless of who plays quarterback for the Chargers. And we have to look at how, we just talked about it earlier about how this Chiefs defense has carried them to their 3-0 start. Are they as an impactful of a defense and basically having something close to the body bag game we saw 40 years ago, like what we're getting out of the Steelers? No, but Chris Jones is the quarterback of that defense, and the other weapons that they have around them on their defensive side, you just can't go against them right now. I just can't, and especially if you have the backup quarterback in there, it's a wrap. Justin Herbert, I feel like it's similar to that because even if he does play, he's going to be banged up and not at 100% anyway. And I just don't think it's a smart move to put him in there against this Chiefs defense if he's not 100% at this point in the year. Because if you put him in there and he gets hurt even worse or potentially season-ending injury, there goes your season. So right here and now, I think there's a really good chance Taylor Heinicke plays regardless of if, Herbert gets approved to play or not. And if that's definitely the case, which there's a really good chance of that happening, I see the Chiefs really winning this game and at least by double digits at minimum.
The Chiefs would love to hear what you just said, simply because I think they need to have one of those double-digit victories. And double the fact this would be against a divisional rival. I think it probably would be better served for Herbert, I think, if Heinicke starts, just to give him a chance to heal. I mean, if this game was December or January, different story, but we're talking about a late September game. Yes, I know it's against the Chiefs, but I think he probably does need to sit out just to heal. And I also pick the Chiefs, no matter who's starting, Heinicke or Herbert. And it's not necessarily because I don't trust the Chargers. I think they're going to give the Chiefs a battle. I just don't believe that they are up to the level of competition and the level of competitors that the Chiefs are. And they live for these moments. And right now they are the measuring stick. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. So yeah, I agree with you. I think the Chiefs are going to take it. Well, who do you all believe is going to take these games between the Vikings and Packers and the Chiefs Chargers? Let us know. We would like to know what you think. But I think it's time for us to award something else. I can't put my finger on it.
Total Football Talk.
Oh, yeah. That's what we're going to do. We're going to award our Snowflake of the Week. And for his Snowflake, Drew, who is it for you?
There's many ways we could go about this. Definitely, there were some lopsided games that we saw this past week. I could throw it at Skylar Thompson for what he did for the Dolphins. But you know who I'm really going to give it to? And it's somebody who didn't even play. Give it to Bryce Young because of what Andy Dalton did with the Panthers. Your NFL career is over. Why? Because you absolutely sucked the first 2 weeks. And you look at what this man named the Red Rocket did for you as your quarterback for the Panthers. We've been talking about how the Carolina Panthers have had human turnstiles over there on their offensive line. And then you shuffle out there a man who's closer to 40 than he is to 30, and he goes out there and lights up the other team with 300 plus passing yards and not one, not two, but 3 passing touchdowns on the day?
He's throwing
Yeah,
he's
my
throwing
snowflake is Bryce Young all the way on over there from the bench because you absolutely suck. You are my snowflake of the week, and he didn't even play.
You're throwing a man who didn't even play under the bus, but that's okay. I understand. It makes sense. And Bryce, I do wish you well and luck in your future endeavors, even if it means you actually do play again. But goodness gracious. Yeah, in one game, your stock dropped like a rock in the Pacific Ocean. Jeez. Oh, man. Oh, let me think. Let me see. The Cowboys defense. Too easy of a target. Baker Mayfield. Nah, I could, but I won't.
Bunker Stayfield.
Let me see. Laramie Tunsil. I was tempted, but I won't. Yeah. Raheem Morris. Get on this hot seat, brother, and take this snowflake. Come on, bro. You're dealing with a team that you defensively had a decent handle on. You were down 22-17 with under 5 minutes to go. You were driving. You had the opportunity to kick a field goal with more than 3 minutes to go and 3 timeouts left. Oh, and the 2-minute warning to boot. Down 2. Because we both know Young Wei-Koo has a big-time leg, and he's extremely accurate. So it's not that you lack a kicker or that you lack accuracy with him. It's for the lack of the fact that you seem to lack a brain. Come on, man. You go for it. And memo to those fools that said, well, this is why the Chiefs win all those championships. The refs are in their pocket. You could say the same thing. You said the same thing about the Patriots the decade before. You said the same thing about the Patriots a decade before that. You said the same thing about the Cowboys a decade before that. You said the same thing about the 49ers a decade before that. Stop it. The Chiefs are not in the refs' pockets. But Raheem Morris was, at least with the decisions he made. And I say that because you had 2 opportunities within the red zone to put up points, and you came away with 0. The second time, it was 4th and inches. 4th and at least at the most, a half a yard. And you mean to tell me you do not trust your offensive line? Yes, I know there's some issues in terms of health, but still, you mean to tell me that even with that, you did not trust your offensive line to get you a 1.5 feet? Really? You decided to run a sweep, and you've been having issues like my partner laid out for you. You ran the ball 20 plus times. You barely got 60 yards when you're running it, and you decide to run a sweep when the most damaging of plays you did on the ground was an end around. Come on, man. You have been in the league long enough, not as a head coach, but as a defensive coordinator. You know the deal. You know the deal. Your defense was playing well enough. Your offense should have at least garnered you 3 points on one possession and the opportunity to score a touchdown. If not, settle for a second field goal the second time around. Because all you had to do when the Chiefs were going to get the ball back, and the Chiefs were going to get the ball back, was limit a first down and try to get them to punt before they got 2 first downs. You did that. But you came away with 0 points. You should know better than this. As a defensive-minded head coach, points are at a premium, especially with a team with a defense like the Chiefs. Come on, man. You hurt your team. You hurt your team, and there's no excuse for that. I could go on the rest of the show because I was so frustrated and upset with your decision making, Raheem. Come on, man. In fact, just go to commercial. Jeez.
post game. But coming up next, the 2-minute drill. This is Total Football Talk. Comey Media Incorporated, creating content magic in the real world.
In a world where chronicles of the past are brought to the streams, whether the content is relatable or completely beyond your realm of life, there is no shadow of a doubt that this show is absolutely full of shenanigans. Get ready for
D. Willie in the evening,
this Sunday at 10:05 p.m. Eastern.
exclusively on Sartoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $ D Willie 87. Go ahead, hit him up on the Cash App, and go ahead and give him some Willie Bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie Bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. How about some Willie Bucks?
Sartoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Oh, yes. The tradition, the pageantry, the spectacle, the history, the slut. Wait. I gotta rep my brother's stuff right. All my DMV soldiers, stand up! And welcome to the Commander's Gridiron Report. If you want your commanders to be rep right, well, D. Willie is your man. Commander's Gridiron Report, every Tuesday at 1:05 p.m. Eastern, 12:05 a.m. Central, on the Sartoba Media YouTube channel. Music by J. Cool.
Where my soldiers, right side, commanders. Where my soldiers, left side, commanders.
Welcome back to Total Football Talk with Drew Willingham. I'm Cole Johnson. We are now inside the 2-minute drill. Oh, and for their snowflakes of the week, Playmaker said, hey, the Alice Cowboys. Why Alice? Because they possess no D. Yes, I know. They don't possess a D, but they possess a couple of...
Oh, yeah. You know I got a comment on this right here. This right here. I got something to say. My man Playmaker bringing this up in here. You know, you were just talking about how in the past segment with the Falcons and the end around move.
Mhm.
Well, if you subtract end from the around and you add reach, that's what Mike McCarthy is going to be doing to save his job if he continues to have this type of production out of his Cowboys team. End quote.
Delete!
I now have a headache from laughing so hard.
Yes!
Oh my gosh. I did not think I was going to hear the reference reach around on this episode. But... and Playmaker agrees with you. Yes, Drew, yes, with 3 crying emojis. Oh, Lord. And Dante says, look, the snowball of the week, not snowflake, but snowball of the week is the Dallas defense. It started out as a snowflake. It might be a full avalanche next week. Well, actually, it might be a full avalanche Friday morning, because actually the Thursday night game is them, the Cowboys. They travel to the Meadowlands. They play the New York Giants. Both teams are 1-2. Both teams are now looking up to the Eagles, your Eagles, Dante, and for first place in the NFC East. So I ask this question. Do we even want to see this game?
I have one button to click. Because that's what it's going to be. Because the Eagles and the Cowboys are the ones who are going to be the kryptonite for the Giants and serve them the big O.
All right, so
until this game happens and the Giants are at home and we get to see the Cowboys get one step closer to firing Mike McCarthy, the Giants, in my opinion, will win this game.
Oh, the Giants will win it.
There's your upset of the week.
Okay, so, all right, he picks the Giants. I want to pick the Giants. I pick the Cowboys. I do not have the faith in the Giants to actually put together two good games in a week. But this does not stop anything if you say, oh, Cole is on the Cowboys bandwagon.
This has been yet another beating a dead horse presentation.
See, I have to go with the Giants in this game because the Cowboys are a bigger
If they actually had a running attack, I'd be 100% with you because, yes, they are a dumpster fire. There's no question about that. Oh, my gosh. But they just love the front run. And unfortunately, the Giants are a team that the Cowboys could easily front run against. But I digress.
Malik Neighbors has just played more elite as a rookie in the first 3 weeks than anybody on the entire offense for the Cowboys outside of Dak Prescott, okay? When it comes to all of their receiving weapons, a rookie, Malik Neighbors, has outdone everyone for the Cowboys.
I knew you was going to go there. I can't disagree with you. You facts. Funny as heck. Facts. Oh my gosh.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
All right. To the Sunday affairs. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're going to begin with the Saints at 2-1. They go to their arch rival in the ATL. They face off against the Falcons at 1-2, and the brain dead Raheem. No, let me stop. Fox has that coverage. Kickoff is at 1 p.m. Oh, I'm sorry. The Cowboys Giants game is to be on Amazon Prime on Thursday night. 8:15 is opening kickoff there. Opening kickoffs at 1 p.m. for the Saints Falcons game. Who do you have on this one, sir?
Based on the way the Saints got exposed in week 3 and how the Falcons are going to be regretting the mistakes by their coach and some other things that happened in this past game, I don't see the Falcons starting out 1-3. I do feel that the Saints will get their second loss of the season this weekend. I have the Falcons winning this Sunday.
Agreed. I think they'll bounce back. I think since Saquon Barkley had a field day against that front for the Saints, I believe Bijan Robinson will too. So yeah, I definitely have the Falcons. And look, on the other side, I think Matthew Judon, he will be a problem for Derek Carr. So yeah, I agree with you. But it's going to be a really good game though. But I have the Falcons taking it. The Bears at 1-2, they host the equally 1-2 Los Angeles Rams. Fox will have it. 1 p.m. is a kick there. Of course, it'll be noon in Chicago for the kick. Noon local time. Your thoughts on this game and who do you have?
Based on the way the Rams got the win this past weekend, I feel like it's going to be a little spark to the next few weeks for them. The Bears have been struggling, with their defense a little bit, but also, getting the ball moving on offense a little bit, and especially with Caleb Williams' rookie mistakes. I don't see them overcoming this Rams team. I think Playmaker's going to enjoy back-to-back wins for his team, and this one being on the road for them, and the Bears losing at home at 1 o'clock this Sunday.
Just promise me, Wunderkind, run the ball, please. Do something. Yes, you did a better job yesterday, but just run the ball. Just show that you actually have the ability to be diverse and that it's not one of those one every 4 games types of thing. They have what it takes to go into Chicago and beat them. I think they will too. I have the Rams as well. CBS will have this 1 p.m. kick. The Indianapolis Colts, they're 1-2. They host the undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers. Your thoughts on this game and who do you have winning it?
Pittsburgh will still be undefeated after this game as Anthony Richardson continues to play like he has been. They will be on my dumpster Pelican list of the week if that continues to be for this upcoming week, because the Steelers' defense is absolutely solid to the T right now. I'm going with the Steelers being 4-0 after week 4.
The Steelers, they're going to make the game the way I love it. Ugly. It's going to be low scoring. It's going to be 3 yards to the cloud of dust. And Anthony Richardson needs to rely on that deep arm to even have a chance. Oh, yeah, and Jonathan Taylor to do something on the ground. I don't see it. I see the Steelers improving to 4-0 in this one. I got the Steelers over the Colts, and no, this is not. I'm rooting for them because they're in the same division as the Texans. This is just straight analysts for me. I think the Steelers are better than the Colts. I think they'll take them and take them out. CBS also have this 1 p.m. kick. The Jets at 2-1. They host the Broncos at 1-2. It looks like the Jets get a chance. Well, Aaron Rodgers and Nathaniel Hackett get a chance to sock it once again to Sean Payton. Your thoughts on this game and who wins?
Captain H takes over the game again, and they will definitely win this because Captain Ayahuasca will be on the money here at home. Denver, enjoy your win that you got this past weekend. You will get many more in the future, maybe not this year, but in the future of Bo Nix as your quarterback for years to come. But Captain Ayahuasca is on top right now for New York and will be on top in this home game for them as the Jets will improve to 3-1. The Broncos will fall to 1-3, in my opinion.
Yeah. Captain Ayahuasca is going to, I think, have a field day with the Broncos. I think he's going to systematically pick them apart. I want the Broncos to win this game sorely, but it's not happening. All right. Fox has this 1 p.m. kick. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are 2-1, they host the Eagles at 2-1. Of course, the last time they faced off, the Buccaneers eliminated the Eagles from the playoffs 32-9. Your thoughts on this game and who's going to win it?
My man Dante is going to be enjoying a victory for the Eagles this weekend as Bunker Stayfield will revert back to Bunker Stayfield once again for the second consecutive week. The Buccaneers will fall to 2-2. The Eagles will improve to 3-1. We will be one step closer to laughing at the Cowboys even more when this happens.
I agree, and I think they have the key ingredient. When I think long and hard about the running attack for the Bucs, it comes and goes, more than goes than comes. And you have the Eagles that rely on Saquon Barkley. And to me, there's your difference. I think the Eagles will topple the Buccaneers in Tampa on the strength of Saquon Barkley's legs. And hopefully for you, Dante, the catching abilities of one Dallas Goedert, should A.J. Brown miss another game. CBS will have this 1 p.m. kick between the Texans hosting the Jaguars. The Texans come into the game at 2-1. The Jaguars are currently 0-2 because they haven't played their Monday night game against the Bills yet. Your thoughts on this game and who's going to win it?
I think that the Texans are going to bounce back because the tough game they had played in week 3 and serve the Jaguars that big fat. I don't see CJ Stroud reverting into like a big sophomore slump in the 2024 season, but of course, every young quarterback is going to take their licks and have some bumps in the road, and that's what we saw in week 3. I don't think it continues on for week 4, though, and they're playing against a Jaguars team that is absolutely full of these right here, these dumpster Pelicans on this list. So looking at this right here for what it is, I think the Texans bounce back, get their victory in this game, and improve to 3-1 as the Jaguars will fall to defeatedness.
I agree with you. I look at this game this way. I think, and this sounds really harsh, but I really believe the Jaguars is the type of opponent the Texans need, because I think they need to lick their wounds, and I think they need to see if they can execute on a higher level and not have what happened yesterday stick with them. And I think that's what's going to happen. And 100%, I am on board with you, Drew. CJ Stroud, he's one of those rare breeds where even at a young age, he does not, or he rarely does, make the same mistake twice. So I don't see him making the similar or the same type of mistakes this game as he did yesterday. So yeah, I have the Texans over the Jags. All right, the Fox has this 1 p.m. kick. The Panthers at 1-2. They come home conquering heroes, and they will await the Cincinnati Bengals, who are currently 0-2 in Charlotte. Who do you have in this one, sir?
This one's a little bit tougher for me to call than the past game because, again, we look at how things were, and the Bengals and the Panthers are two teams that have been playing very, very lacklusterish this season, especially the Panthers until they made the move with the Red Rocket. The Bengals is a tough game because of, what we talked about in the green room as far as suggestion for where to move certain things to discuss for the week, because we haven't seen tonight's game yet with the Bengals and the Commanders. It makes it a little bit tough. But based on the prediction that I gave for that last week, if what I'm going to do for this one, I think that the Panthers with the Red Rocket will improve to 2-2 to continue to bury the eliteness of one Bryce Young. Panthers improved to 2-2, and the Bengals, unfortunately, will fall yet again.
Wow. Okay.
Upset of the week.
Yeah, that does have upset of the week written all over it. If the Bengals break on through to the other side, I think they will be 2-2 in this game. If not, I see them being 0-4. That's where I look at it. So I'm going to treat it as though the Commanders beat the Bengals tonight. I'm with you. I think I'm going to take the Panthers. Because I think it'll serve the Bengals right to stop starting off slow in these seasons and try to pick it up when the calendar turns to October. And hopefully they will. And speaking of your Commanders, the 4 or 5 kick on Fox. Of course, they will be playing the Bengals tonight in Cincy. After that, they'll be traveling to the desert to play the Cardinals. They're 1-2. Currently, the Commanders are 1-1. Who do you have in this game, sir? Stone cold silence.
At least I went 2.5 hours almost without doing that. Okay, gotta give myself a little bit of credit. But no, when it comes to tonight's gonna be able to answer this question huge for me. If Jaden Daniels can throw a passing touchdown tonight, I will be able to raise my hope in him, because throughout the first 2 weeks he's played decent, but he hasn't had a passing touchdown yet. That does concern me a little bit. If he doesn't get that in this game against the Bengals, then I feel like the Cardinals are going to win this game at home, and they should, if that's the case. If you have a quarterback on the other team that can't throw a passing touchdown. But I have a feeling, even though I had something different to say last week, as time goes on, and especially thinking more about the real Slim Burrow. Okay. If Jaden Daniels goes into Cincy tonight, plays well, has a couple passing touchdowns, and upsets Slim Burrow, then something could happen like that again in Arizona. But I'm going to be realistic, and because we haven't seen this game yet, I'm going to say that Kyler Duty steps up, gets this win at home, and gets his team back on track, and just to play within the right confines of this game of the NFL. I'm going to stick by that and say Arizona wins this game at home.
Like I said to you as to begin the season, and I think you're taking it too hard. The managing expectations type of thing, where it's like you normally root for your team to win, but instead of rooting for your team to win, root for your quarterback to grow and to prosper, and then not make mistakes and not get injured. I have to actually say, so far, I'm liking what I'm seeing from Jaden. I think it looks like what I'm seeing, the brain trusts are trying to make the game easy for him and to not overwhelm him. And I think I love what you said about the Cardinals beating the Commanders, because I could see that. I actually could see the other way around, and I'm going to go the other way around. I think this will be my upset of the week. I think the Commanders will actually go to the desert, and they actually will get a win there. And I think, reason being, I think it actually will be Jaden Daniels. I think he will be able to execute in a way that I think it will make you as a Commanders fan proud, because you're going to see growth in this guy against a team like the Cardinals. So I'm going to be the Commanders.
So Cole is going to say that he's got this game as the him.
Acknowledge me.
As he would deserve it in that moment.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Oh, Dante says, look, I have a question. If things don't change, does Terry McLaurin stay with the Commanders?
It's a really good question. I can tell you that I would never, ever see him go here.
Ain't nobody calling me, texting me. Delete!
You guys want to hear a fucking story?
The story is this: he will never go to Dallas, even if he leaves. So you can cross that off of the other 31 teams available. But the other 30 teams, it's a good question, Dante. But I think that the fact that they've got a new young quarterback in Jaden Daniels and a new coaching staff seems to be working a lot better with the team in the previous regime. I think that they've got a really good chance of keeping Terry McLaurin. For how long? Who knows?
Oh, the butler just doing this will always get me in that delete video. Oh my gosh. But that's a good question. Thank you, Dante. Oh my gosh. All right. 405 kick again. This time it is in Santa Clara between the 1-2 San Francisco 49ers. Who had that on your bingo card going into late September? Of course, that all can change when we get down to the rest of the year. They host the 1-2 New England Patriots. Who do you have in this one, sir?
I think the 49ers bounce back, after the two losses they've suffered, and especially with the way that this Patriots offense is playing, they have no reason to not bounce back in this game, said being 49ers. So 49ers improved to 2-2. This is a rebuilding year for the Patriots anyway, and they've already understood that going into 2024. They're going to be the ones to fall to 1-3 here, in my opinion.
Yeah. Even though they've had a week and a half off, or will have a week and a half off before this game is played. Yeah, I think the 49ers will come home. They're going to be hating the fact they went 0-2 on the road, even with the fact that they will be without Deebo Samuel and CMC. Yeah, I agree with you. And then the 49ers will take it to the Patriots, and the Pats will go home with another L. It's unfortunate, but growing pains. CBS will take this 425 kick. It'll be between the Las Vegas Raiders, who are 1-2, and the visiting massage parlors just to see him masturbate. I'm sorry, my bad. 1-2 Cleveland Browns. Who do you have in this game, sir?
You know, I want to give a little bit more faith into Uncle Rico because I wanted to go off on him severely bad today. But because of the misogynistic parlors of the Browns, I'm going to have to go with the Raiders improving to 2-2, the Browns falling to 1-3, and the question marks continue to arise over there in Cleveland.
I already believe that the Browns offensive line has checked out on him. And you've played this game. I have too. When the offensive line checks out on a QB, that's a horrible sign for the rest of the team because it's a reflection of what the rest of the team thinks of the quarterback. And because I believe that is what's happened, I think the Raiders will improve to 2-2 as well. And then we have the Sunday night game. It will be between the Ravens, who will be at 1-2, hosting the currently 2-0, but more likely to be 3-0, Buffalo Bills. The kickoff is at 8:20. Again, NBC will be carrying it. Who do you have in this game?
This right here, based on the Ravens, even though they are at 1-2, their record is better than 1-2. I mean, they are playing better than 1-2. And the Bills, though, I mean, we're going to see them tonight. We're going to see them demolish the Jaguars. They're going to be 3-0 at this point, in my opinion.
I agree.
But they're going to have to lose at some point. And I feel like they're going to lose against the Ravens. And because it's time for them to finally step it up into this atmosphere into getting another win. They're going to improve to 2-2. The Bills will fall to 3-1 at that point. I may be wrong here, but that's going to be my choice for this game.
I don't think you're far off or wrong. The Bills have to take an L eventually. And I think the Ravens are the right team for them to take that L against. The reason being, look, the Bills defensively are solid. There's no question about that. I'm loving the fact they are balanced offensively. I think what will happen, though, is I think for the first time this year, I think that balance that the Bills have actually attained on offense is going to have to be challenged. I think the Ravens defense will challenge that balance a little bit, and they're going to have to challenge the Bills to attempt trying to run the ball without Josh Allen. I think they will be pressed to run him, and I think that's where the L will come. So, yes, I also pick the Ravens as well. Well, as you all have done in the chat, thank you, TFT Tribe. If you're watching this on replay, who do you think are going to be winning these games? Just type it down into the below the description box. And if you have an upset or two, mark that upset as well. That is the end of the 2-minute drill. I think it's time for something else. I can't remember what. Can't put my finger on it.
Total football talk.
As long as it's one.
It's the post game. Well, unfortunately, we have come to the end of the program, but before we do go, to put a bow on what has transpired in week 3 of the NFL, Drew, please do the honors.
We've seen a pretty interesting week 3. Weeks 1 and 2, we had a little bit more action in certain aspects. We got 2 games of Monday Night Football that we have to look forward to that we don't always get that treat. The first game is going to be an absolute dumpster Pelican-worthy matchup. But and it's basically just going to be because of the fact that the Jaguars are going to show up and get absolutely destroyed by the Bills. But
Agreed.
The second game, I think we're going to have a little bit more of a closer contest. It's going to be pretty interesting to watch for myself. The fact that I have a Monday night off from my job that I normally would be at work to watch the game, I'm very, very, very pleased to say that. So You know, you put a lot into something and you get rewarded at certain points, and that is how I feel on this Monday. Not with the football, but with the personal. Now, back to football. When it comes to football, the Commanders, I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do tonight on the road against the Bengals. When it comes to everything else that happened in week 3, you know, Cole and I walked, you know, a really good path of how we saw each and every game this week. The Steelers continue to prove their dominance on defense. You know, Aaron Rodgers shows that that Achilles is definitely healed up well, and Captain Ayahuasca did enough during this offseason of tripping out to get back ready for this season. Because look at him, 2-1. He did his job. He's doing okay right now through the first 3 weeks. So there's a lot more football we have to uncover, and we have a lot more football to discuss this week. As again, on Fridays, you can check out Total Football Talk Extra, as we have that between Comey Media and Sertoba Media. Should be back to its normal 5 p.m. time this week. On Friday, we should have Ryan McCarthy as well. I hope so, because last week I did it, okay? I did it by myself. But if you go back and watch it, you may feel the same way that I do, that episode absolutely sucked, okay?
Wow.
Just because it was me by myself. I'm my worst critic, okay? So I'm going to sit here and probably say it was absolutely terrible. You might watch it and say you did okay doing it by yourself, but I can only make that thing last for 45 minutes, okay? It's tough to do it by yourself. When you have great people by your side, whether it's Cole or if you have Ryan McCarthy with me helping me out with Total Football Talk, makes it to where things flow a little bit easier. So I'm looking forward to having Ryan back on Friday, 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. Tomorrow, considering the fact that I do not have to go to work tonight, that I am taking a PTO day, we should have Commander's Gridiron Report back finally on Tuesday, which will hopefully get me on the right track to continue to bring it back on Tuesdays going forward. So that is the plan. But for us to have episode 56 of Total Football Talk, the Father Show, today on Monday, it gets the week started just right. And the fact that I got to zoom in this camera couple times and now one more just to do it because it is a fun time. And there are some hairs on the side of my face. You can see it as I zoom in and zoom out. That is my final take here for the post game.
Why are you like this? Oh my gosh. Oh, Lord, you are too much. Don't change, but you're still too much. Oh, Lord, I knew that zooming in and zooming out was going to be something. I just knew it. I'm like, oh, Lord, he gets to zoom in, he can zoom back out. Oh, yeah, he's gonna have a field day with that.
Don't give me privileges.
Now, this is addressed to you, Cowboys fan. No, not the ones who actually are critical thinkers. No, not the ones who can be objective. No, not the ones who have called Gerald to the carpet. No, not you. Now, I'm talking about the rose, or in this case, the navy blue and the silver and the white colored glasses Cowboys fan. Yes, the one that says, "We them boys." Yes, the ones that say, "We're America's team." The ones that will say to you only 10 seconds after their team gets eliminated from the last game of their season, whether it is week 18 in the regular season or the wild card round or the divisional round, quote, "You know we're going to Super Bowl, right? You know we're going to Super Bowl, right?" Addressing this to y'all. I'm addressing it not even to the people who live in Dallas or the Fort Worth or the Metroplex area. No, I'm addressing it to Cowboys fan that don't even know what Dallas looks like. No, I'm rooting for you when you live in DC or New York or Philly, but you're like, Dallas is my team. Yay! Yes, I'm talking to you guys. The reason why we have people who are astute enough in this game to actually say to you, Gerald didn't set this team up to succeed. They set this team up to fail miserably. It's because of the product you're seeing on the field now. We haven't even gotten 1 month in the season. And I'm seeing long faces in AT&T Stadium. I mean, I saw for this first 6 of the 8 quarters of regular season action in AT&T Stadium. I think I have never seen Cowboys fans so dejected and depressed and despondent. This is why you are going to look dejected and depressed and despondent, because they don't have all the horses. Yes, they have athletes on defense, Trayvon Diggs in the secondary, uh, uh, Demarcus Lawrence on the line, uh, Micah Parsons, where you want to put him on the edge of the line or the edge of the linebackers, whichever a 4-3 or 3-port set you want to set him in. You have talent on the team. And Dak Prescott, people could talk ill about him. Yes, he is a talented quarterback. However, along with CeeDee Lamb, talented receiver. However, when in running back, you decided to get for the upgrade when Tully Potter left, Ezekiel Elliott. When you decided to say, oh, we're good on the offensive line, and they've been dropping like flies the last couple of years. And when you got a chance to witness firsthand, like we did in January, that the defense, although they're talented, they're front runners, because if a team jumps on them early, you can basically bully them completely out of the stadium. We heard from Gerald, quote, "Oh, we're fine. We're close to the goal. In fact, I don't have very little time left, and I think we're very close to get to the Super Bowl." Close quote. I really wish I had a stop lying element right now, because that's what you're trying to sell. But Cowboys fan, your team is not all that good. They're not bad. They're not Carolina Panthers level. No, they're not horrible. They're not moribund. They're not scraping the bottom of the barrel. Heck, you're not scraping the bottom of the barrel of the NFC East. That's the Giants' job. But you actually might be beaten by them come Thursday night. I digress. You want this team to go back to the glory that some of you remember. Most of you don't, but you remember off the glory of your parents and grandparents when they hoisted the Larry O'Brien, when they hosted the Vince Lombardi Trophy up in the air, January of 1996. You realize that it's now 28 years and 8 months ago, and they ain't hoisting it this coming February. Get that pipe dream off your list and out your head. It's not happening. Accept the fact that they aren't good enough. I'm sorry. They are not good enough. And the easier you accept it and the sooner you do, the better off you be. Repeat after me, Cowboys fan. And I'm doing this in quote fashion. Quote, "My team is not good enough. In fact, no, I'll say it this way. Dem boys ain't good enough." Close quote. I mean, it should roll off your tongue. Dem boys ain't good enough. That's right. Dem boys ain't good enough. And come mid-January, you're going to be hurting. And come mid-January, people like Drew and myself, I'm going to be smiling. Not because the Cowboys as a team won't make it to the Super Bowl for the 29th consecutive year, but we get a chance to see you all sullen-faced, not believing the fact that your team that is the richest franchise in the world sucks. be at home with that. And you have your owner to thank you for it.
As long as it's one. It's great. I love it. I hope it actually is recording. Listening to it.
I would like to add that
Please.
we feel bad for fans out there like our friend. Because he is an innocent bystander in all of this. Okay? When you are a fan of a team that has an owner like Jerome, everybody is going to laugh at you to the point to where you got to say,
We gotta pause that.
what? I mean, am I wrong or am I right? You tell me in the comments.
Oh, gosh. Yes, that's why I had to address it early. No, I'm not. This is not addressed to Ben Southern III, who is a huge Cowboys fan. It's not addressed to Ivan Dawkins, another huge Cowboys fan. It's not addressed to Ivan. It's not addressed to Victor either, because they actually have the ability to objectively talk about their team. No, it is to those who, after the Browns game, actually said to me, quote, "Oh yeah, we gonna go all the way. We gonna go to the Super Bowl and we gonna win it." Close quote. Yes. I mean, right after that game was over, that's what was said to me. I'm like, oh Lord. So of course, last week I fired back. I was like, this team, the one that just got spanked 44-19. This team is the Super Bowl bound squad you're talking about? I'm like, Lord.
You like that? You like that?
Yeah, you like getting smacked around like that to the point to where you tried to say nonsense to us to make us believe otherwise.
Oh my gosh. So,
and you know why they tell us that nonsense?
You can't handle the truth.
Because you can't.
They most certainly can. But yes, I just felt within my spirit, in my heart, I had to get that out of me. All right. So do you have anything else for the TFT tribe or for any in the Total Football Talk audience?
Hey, thank you guys for tuning in. As always, look forward to getting up with you again later this week. But most importantly, next Monday with my man, Kyle Johns. Had to do it once.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do. Now, if you want to reach my brother Drew, all you have to do is go onto the following social media handles.
And go to
at Sotoba_media on Instagram, Sotoba_media on X, these underscores Sotoba on TikTok, and of course, Sotoba Media on YouTube. Where the struggle is real to be awesome, and so is that network. Now, if you want to reach yours truly, you can just go to flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson. That's flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson.
Do less work.
Well,
I gotta get it on that. I swear. We're talking about this for over a year, Cole. What is happening?
Oh my gosh, you are incorrigible but hilarious. That is all the time we have. Thank you for liking. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for subscribing. And the comments, thank you guys. We totally appreciate you, CFT Tribe. Thank you for all the comments. And yes, we see you, Ike. We love you, brother. And you saying take Drew's privileges away, hilarious. And thank you for hitting the notification bell so you can catch all content that emanates from the Sotoba Media YouTube channel.
Thanks, Mike.
And the Common Media YouTube channel.
You spelled privileges wrong.
Oh my gosh. For Drew Willingham, I'm Cole Johnson, here to say imparting, as we always do. In life, just like a tackle, keep your head up. And always remember, you got to play until the whistle blows.
And as always, stay safe out here in these streets.
Yes, sir.
Actually, shout out to Ike, who did spell privileges correctly. I went to Colonial Heights, my bad.